Our final drafts before the NFL schedule is released later this week. We got our usual setup here at the top of the show. I'm going to do a solo draft. Then we're going to have Pat Kerrane swinging by from Legendary Upside, then Mike Leone from Establish the Run. And then our special rotating guest today at 1 p.m. is none other than the oldest man to ever stream all 150 drafts. That is none other than Neil Orfield. It's Hot Best Ball Summer. I'm Pete Overzet. This is Best Ball Breakfast. Let's roll.
It really isn't that hard, guys. You just go top two, win it, win it. Okay, I think we can be done here at running back. You only have 3 running backs. This roster is littered with game theory, arbitrage, exploits, and theoretic reasoning. Bro, light mode, my eyes, dude. I don't know. I prefer that move more in a time box contest. Bro, have you ever scrolled so far down that, like, there's no more names, bro? Don't do drugs, kids. Draft and drive instead. You can't have it both ways, dude. Quid pro quo.
GMs, how are we doing here? I know. Bindle says, I didn't know boomers like Neil were allowed on BBB. I need to figure out if I'm closer in age to Neil Orfield. I think I'm closer to the boomers than I am, the Gen Z crew. So it is what it is. We're allowing Neil on, and it's going to be a great show today. Yes, as we saw in the thumbnail, Joey B says, I can't believe Carr is really Jover. It all happened so fast. I will continue to watch Derek Carr on Sundays from the pulpit when I assume he's going to be live streaming his sermons for Church LV. And I did look up. They actually do have live streams for their services there. So maybe Derek Carr will remain in our lives. GMs Josh, what is up? Chad, Lundar, Brandon, Todd, what is up here? Ben, Hartman, Steve, from the park, walking my dog. Love to hear it. I got in a walk with April this morning. Myself, actually was writing about walking in my newsletter on Friday. I've become one of those guys who tracks their steps. I hit like a personal record for steps yesterday. I was just not sitting down basically once, just between Mother's Day, taking April around. We did a family hike. We hosted people over here. I just didn't sit down once all day and hit almost 20K steps, which was a lot for me. We're on the clock here. Who's in this room? Do I need to be worried about the Piss Boys? What do we do here? Well, let's grab a CeeDee Lamb share. I feel like the Cowboys are fun to discuss right now. Last time we did Best Ball Breakfast, George Pickens was still a Pittsburgh Steeler and now is on the Dallas Cowboys. DK Metcalf is the lone alpha in the Pittsburgh room. And yet one of the most despicable quarterback depth charts I've ever seen. I mean, Mason Rudolph, Skylar Thompson. Who's the third? I'm forgetting their third quarterback there, but it's looking bleak. I can't imagine Aaron Rodgers still wants to go there at this point, but who knows? But hopefully all of you guys had a good Mother's Day weekend. It was pretty nice around here yesterday, so that was nice. Rate yourself on a scale of Rod Stewart to Neil Orfield. I do think in my heart of hearts, I'd like to think I perfectly straddle that spectrum. I have a lot of boomer tendencies. Like if you see what time I go to bed these days, I'm full blown Neil Orfield. But I'd like to think that I still have my finger on the pulse of the youth in a way that Ron Stewart does. Yeah. So I will say right here, everyone, there's all kinds of conversation bubbling up on Twitter, Discord, basically everywhere since ETR released their new overlay tool last week. Lots of people are big mad about it. Lots of there's some I think constructive conversations about it. A lot of it is just people whining. But we're actually going to do a lulz today right after Best Ball Breakfast. So if you want 5 hours of live streaming today, well, guess what? You're going to get it. Because at 2 p.m. Eastern, Brick and I are going to host Levitan and Taylor KB from ETR. Both those guys have been on lulz before, and they're going to talk a little bit about the reaction they've experienced. We actually have virtually no agenda for the conversation. Levitan reached out to me yesterday, said, hey, this is a nuanced conversation that Twitter is not really the best place for. Would you mind doing an emergency lulz to talk about it? And so we said, sure, let's do it. So if you want to talk about the tool stuff, that will be today at 2 p.m. Eastern on lulz. GM's TCD. Yeah, I bet the people, Best Ball says that 20K steps, that's like a day at Disney. Yeah. I haven't been a steps bro for that long. It's been about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months where I've started really enjoying keeping track. So I know my numbers are probably dwarfed by the hardcore step community. And I can imagine at an amusement park how you could rack up a good amount. Yeah, what is going on with the Bowers slide? I'm not sure. But I wish I was in position to gobble it up there at 19. You see Josh Jacobs go at 18 in this draft. JT goes at 20. I am now on the clock here. Let's see. I mean, I said I was going to gobble up a Brock Bowers slide. Let's see here. We'll do Trey McBride. We'll play the hits this morning. We'll play the hits with a CeeDee Lamb, Trey McBride start. And man, I think I referenced this on another show. Dallas, Arizona. That was the Week 17 matchup for Best Ball Mania 2. And on Wednesday night, we are now going to have our Week 17 matchups for the 2025 season, which is a very exciting thing. Next week on Best Ball Breakfast, we'll get to be talking about Week 17 correlations. We can have all the same rehashed conversations about bringbacks and when it's overdone and what is the price that warrants it. I can't wait. Another summer of the same conversations. that should just be the theme of Best Ball. Another summer of the same conversations. But we have so much fun doing it. I think we should get some coffee going here. Ben Havard is drafting and driving today. Uh-oh, you hate to hear that. Hopefully you have one of those self-driving cars so you can keep everyone safe out there. I think even Kitchen disavowed the drafting and driving. Let me make this pick and then I'll pour some coffee. This draft is ripping. Did I do a 30-second draft? I thought I did 30 seconds. Yeah, 30 seconds. We're still ripping here. Yeah, let's do Garrett Wilson. We'll just do a little light value hounding here. I mean, I guess there's the Marv, Trey McBride set up that double stack. But I never, if he was the best available there, I'd have no problem with it. I'm just going to grab Garrett Wilson. I don't hate that double stack. I just don't go out of my ways to force the premium double stacks in these early drafts right now. So we'll start with CeeDee Lamb, Trey McBride, Garrett Wilson, and pour some coffee. When has Kyler had a legit fantasy producing wide receiver? I think Greg Dortch once had a good game. Didn't Greg Dortch have like a 10 target game? But yeah, it's been bleak. I don't know what to really think about Kyler overall as we head into this year. It does seem like a lot of people have waved the white flag and just being like, you know, this guy's too short to see over the offensive line. And yet you look at his ADP and like the ADP is basically still held. ADP at 95. Obviously a couple years ago, we were drafting him a little bit higher when he came off of that big season, but he's been a pretty stable asset. I think there is room to get excited about a potential leap, mainly from Marvin Harrison. I think obviously how they used him last year was a little disappointing, not really playing to his skill sets, kind of marooning him on an island outside, just asking him to beat people, as opposed to kind of setting him up for easy looks. So maybe a combination of using him a little bit better, takes a second year leap, you know, McBride emerging as one of the best weapons in the league, still have one of the best running backs in James Conner. I can squint and tell myself that there's some room for some upside there. I guess it all comes down to how much he rushes again too, because we really saw a tail off in his rushing stats. But there's enough of the ingredients there, I think, that I'm still willing to take a plunge on the Cardinals this year. I also really like Trey Benson's price. Feel pretty good about him being the solidified RB2 there. Not much has changed from last year. And his price is cheaper now, which makes building out those stacks. Michael Wilson, I think, is still another intriguing piece to tack on there. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm neutral to slightly positive on the Cardinals this year. Yeah, he's a guy that can bury you with his legs, but absolutely never will. I do think that stuff can change though, right? Whether it's designed runs, whether it's a more concerted effort to have him scramble more, I do think that stuff can change quickly. All right. Should we grab our first running back here? Omarion Hampton, pick 45. I'm down for that. Seems solid. Omarion Hampton, pick 4-9. At points during pre NFL draft stuff, we were seeing him creep up into the early 4th. You'd even sometimes see him go at the 3-4 turn. Getting a little bit of pushback, some Najee love out there. I guess kind of keeping Omarion Hampton's price in check. He's definitely not steamy, right? Like, despite it being the draft capital we want, a good landing spot as far as how much they're going to run the ball. Yeah, I guess his ADP is just kind of settled. But man, I still think at pick 45, that feels like a bit of a discount. It is wild how few running backs are going in this range, right? We saw Chase Brown go at pick 25, Kyren at 32. But otherwise, it was 10 wide receivers in round 3 of this draft. And I start CeeDee Lamb, Trey McBride, Garrett Wilson, Omarion Hampton. C. Geyer here from the 1 hole grabs George Pickens at the 4-5 turn. His ADP is obviously moving up post-trade. I was kind of hoping he would fall back to me at pick 52. It would have been fun to set up my first Lamb and Pickens double stack, but that is okay. Let's see here. You know who I haven't? I have not selected a lot of Courtland Sutton. I'm going to go ahead and grab him here. He falls just a couple picks past ADP. Have generally been clicking Calvin Ridley or Mixon in this range. Chuba in the mix here via the leg up ranks. Joe Burrow if you have one of the Bengals, but we'll go ahead and grab Courtland Sutton here. I want to be in on the Broncos offense and have definitely been playing it through kind of the cheaper pieces and setting up more backdoor stacks with Bo Nix, but let's grab a Courtland Sutton share and get in the mix here potentially for a Bo Nix selection. This is also a piss boy room. Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I define a piss boy room based on when I feel like a pick I'm making at wide receiver is significantly ahead of ADP. So getting Garrett Wilson at ADP, getting Courtland Sutton at ADP, it's not that crazy. Nick says Pickens is living in the 49 to 52 range. Yeah, 52 would have been nice. His ADP, I believe, is still 57, but that's obviously more of a fake ADP here as that rapidly adjusts. ADP 56.5. But yeah, people are pulling him up quickly there. And I don't blame him. But I do wonder, that'll be kind of a funny dynamic, right? Because CeeDee Lamb's generally going at 1.4, 1.5. I'm wondering, what kind of stuff will we see for people who want to set up the CeeDee Lamb Pickens double stack? Like, could you see some CeeDee Lamb push up to 1.2, knowing it's a little easier to grab Pickens at 47 or 50 than having him fall back to you at 52, 53, which is normally where the CeeDee Lamb drafter is coming from? I think we could see some little gamesmanship there because that CeeDee Lamb Pickens double stack will be something that people will be interested in. This is interesting. So conflicted on Knicks and Denver. This is Chiraf in the chat here. They profited off of a cupcake schedule. All their wins were versus sub-5 wins. How much ceiling does Knicks have? So this is a weird take to me because it feels kind of like based in like NFL win stats. I mean, the way this team was playing and their ability to score points, how they were opening up the offense there with Sean Payton. And now they're adding more weapons. They're going to have a legit run game. They didn't have a legit run game. Bo Nix flashed high-end fantasy tools, everything we want to see from a big arm running game. That was as a rookie. So I think you are safe to forecast some improvement there. They really seem to like Pat Bryant. Evan Ingram, I think, is a significant add there. To me, the stock is up. I'm expecting more of the same. If anything, I guess the only scary part would be their defense is going to be so good. If they're able to ball control a little bit more, with RJ Harvey in that defense, maybe there's a little less juice for the passing game. But man, I'm forecasting a pretty big jump for the Broncos this year. All right, we are on the clock here. Let's see. Chris Olave, Deebo Samuel, Jawan Jennings, Jerry Jeudy. Who do we want to take here? Should we just keep value hounding? Grab a little Chris Olave here. When God closes a Derek Carr, he brings a Tyler Shough into our lives there. So we'll grab Chris Olave at pick 69. We start out with no quarterbacks yet. We got Omarion Hampton holding it down at running back, 4 wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Courtland Sutton, Chris Olave, and Trey McBride here through 6 rounds. What is up, Imwald? Dak going to end up around Kyler and Fields. Yeah, I agree. Because the funny thing that was happening last year that was kind of helping to keep Dak's ADP up was the presence of Jake Ferguson. And a lot of drafters liked double tapping Jake Ferguson and Dak Prescott. This year, Jake Ferguson's going much later, so there's no vacuum to kind of pull up the Dak outside of the CeeDee drafter who'd been pretty content trying to push him. Now you introduce the Pickens drafter into the mix. The double stack drafter is not going to let him slide too far. So yeah, I agree. I think he's going to start to move up here with more competition for stacking partners. Absolute Sauce likes the Olave pick at 60. Yeah, I can't complain about that. It's so funny too that I don't know why. If he's dropping because of Derek Carr retired, that's pretty funny, considering we didn't think Derek Carr was going to play this year, regardless with the shoulder injury. Let's grab Tony Pollard here. Let's see. Caleb Johnson's there. 2 rookies. I do like Pollard, Diggs, Pearsall. We should be able to get another wide receiver we like coming back. Let's go ahead and grab Pollard. I've been attacking this Tennessee backfield a bunch, mainly through Spears, just as the cheaper one, but I like Pollard a ton too. So get a chance to grab Pollard here as my RB2 along with Omarion Hampton. And we can try to think through some of our quarterback stuff here. Dak, obviously, with CeeDee, Justin Fields with Garrett Wilson, and then Bo Nix here. So in this 100 range, we'll probably want to be grabbing. Yeah, that works out well because we pick right at pick 100. So being able to get one of Fields or Bo Nix there, I think we can plan on. And then ideally, we're probably looking at a wide receiver at 93 so that we can get to 5 decent wide receivers before it falls off. And then we can start stacking up some quarterbacks. I'm also completely ignoring Kyler here too. Kyler at 95. So that's, I guess, the other decision. If the wide receivers get wiped out, we could maybe justify getting our 2 QBs here at 93 and 100 and then just being done at QB. We could play it like Kyler with one of Nix. I think my preferred, though, would be select wide receiver here, push quarterback to round 9, and then hopefully target Dak after that. Because Dak's ADP is still at 121, even though he's moving up. I pick at 117. So have good options at quarterback over these next 3 rounds. Kyler range, Bo Nix, and Justin Fields range, and then Dak. Joey B is forecasting a Chris Olave trade to the Jets. Is this an actual rumor, or is this just wish casting? Yeah, Rodgers going to New Orleans would make a little bit more sense to me than Pittsburgh. Like if I were Rodgers, I would rather go play in New Orleans in the Dome. Decent weapons there. Bad division. I mean, like having to go play against the Bengals and the Browns outdoors all the time. Obviously, the Ravens versus the Panthers and the Bucks and the Falcons. Yeah, that would be an easy decision for me. Steve says, do you think it will kill your team if you draft 2 QBs and then they happen to have the same bye week? No, it doesn't kill your team. It's not ideal. I forget who it was, ran some numbers on this last year. I think it had like a 1 to 2% hit on your overall advance rate at the quarterback position. It was even smaller for tight end as far as the onesies and the overlapping buys. It doesn't help, but if you draft the nuts, having your 2 quarterbacks on bye the same week doesn't matter. But yeah, it's just one of those things that we are willing to, or you have to be willing to accept when you want to draft before the NFL schedule comes out. But yeah, and that's why I have generally been tilting my just quarterback rooms to 3 quarterbacks. Let's see here. So 92. Yeah, this is the spot I was talking about. I want to grab another wide receiver here. And then we'll figure out quarterback the next 2. Let's go ahead and grab Luther Burden. I feel like taking the big rookie upside swing here when I feel good about my veterans in this room makes sense. CeeDee Lamb, Wilson, Sutton, Olave, and then we'll toss in kind of the volatile Luther Burden. And that also, no, it doesn't open up another quarterback out. Caleb Williams is already off the board. Where did Caleb Williams go? Man, Caleb Williams went at pick 87. Okay, to crutches here with the Rome draft. Yep. So we'll now see if we can push. Can we push Kyler? Kyler goes. And now we'll have 2 cracks at Justin Fields and Bo Nix. So we can grab one of these guys here, assuming that both are there. Yeah, I think Manly Moose saying you could take advantage of the starter available in the 18th round for your QB3. Shough is a value. I could certainly play it that way if I needed to. I have a little bit more Justin Fields than I do Bo Nix. Both I think are good picks here. I do love the idea. If someone in the chat could confirm to me that Chris Olave is being traded to the Jets, then I will select Justin Fields on this team. But otherwise, I think I'm going to take a stab at Bo Nix here. I don't think I've selected much Bo Nix yet. Through my 11, this is my 11th Best Ball Mania draft. We'll grab Bo Nix here to stack up with Sutton, our first QB. So we're at a 1-2-5-1 build. Bo Nix at quarterback, Omarion Hampton and Tony Pollard. Just wait for that Denver-Los Angeles Chargers Week 17 matchup. It's going to hit like crack. Wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Courtland Sutton, Chris Olave, Luther Burden, and Trey McBride at tight end. Am I taking much unstacked Fields? You know, I don't think so. I haven't. I should probably consider it. I think the reason I generally don't is because he's at the beginning of this big quarterback window, right? And generally on my teams, I have players or quarterbacks to stack that are going to be going later. You know, you're going to have your Michael Penix, your Bryce Youngs, your Cam Wards or whatever. So I haven't been thinking through it. I think if I do get some unstacked Justin Fields, it would hopefully be at a little bit of a value. But just anecdotally, it doesn't seem like he ever slips. Like the room is never letting Justin Fields fall, more than 6-7 picks past ADP, partly because people are content to draft him unstacked, and rightfully so. But I think it's a good shout out. I'm not at the point yet. I mean, this is literally my 11th draft. I haven't really been thinking about exposures at all. But I think as the summer progresses, I'll start to think of that as, hey, is that a blind spot that I'm never selecting, Justin Fields there naked and then building out some teams that way. All right, I've been confirmed that the Olave to the Jets is absolute wish casting and that it's not a substantiated rumor. In that case, I feel so relieved that I took Bo Nix. Steph Miller in the chat pouring absolute cold water on this salacious Chris Olave rumor. Oh, Olave to the Jets is looking like fans wish casting to get the Ohio State trio back together. Did Ian Hartnett start this rumor? Is that where this is coming from? All right, let's see what we got going here. 117. I think this is I just take Dak. We do have Charbonnet falling here. But because Fields and Kyler are gone, I do want to lock up Dak with CeeDee Lamb. We do have options there as far as being able to get Jake Ferguson later. Obviously, you got a couple other flyers on the Cowboys that we could take. So we'll lock up Dak and probably going to be done at quarterback here. Maybe we could do a little Tyler Shough for the crowd. You know, if people want last round Tyler Shough for the culture, we could entertain that. But we'll just lock up the nice stacks here. Nix with Sutton and CeeDee Lamb with Dak there at pick 117. Quarterbacks flying off the board now. Jared Goff goes right after me, then CJ Stroud. Dicey gets a nice value on Zach Charbonnet at pick 119. Man, do I take the Javonte Williams plunge here on this Dak team? I think I might. I've been mainly playing it through Jaden Blue later. Wow, Jaden, I didn't realize that Jaden Blue's ADP was up to 131. I think this might be the spot to take a stab on Javonte. Couple picks past ADP. I do love getting me some big team level bets here. You know, the ranks, we're looking at quarterbacks. It's like, yeah, Ramondre, Spears, who I like. I already have Pollard. Yeah, let's grab Javonte. We'll do it. We'll eat our vegetables here. The thing about the Javonte is my guess, the way the market's going to move, and I mean, it's already moving this way with Jaden Blue creeping up so fast. My guess is we get a flippening on those two eventually this summer, where Jaden Blue is going ahead of Javonte, and then Javonte goes, 10, 20 picks after him. That's just kind of my hunch on where this goes, but we'll take some stabs here on this Cowboys team. I think it was last week on there's a long conversation on ADP chasing about the Cowboys backfield, where they discussed basically every possible scenario in the Dallas Cowboys running back multiverse. One of them being it could just be the world's grossest committee, and we start to get touches from people like Hunter Lupke again, which is certainly within the range of outcomes. But if this offense is improved, which it should be with Pickens, like the passing game at the very least, there's going to be easy touchdowns available. So yeah, I want to take stabs on both Javonte and Jaden Blue, and I believe this is my first crack at Javonte here. And I always kind of just like to use, can I have permission to take a guy I don't necessarily like in a vacuum? What is that permission? All right, he slides slightly past ADP, and I already have a Dallas team. I'm making a bet on his team. All right, this will be the scenario in which I plug my nose and select Javonte Williams. Yeah, see, Steph, this is what happens when your grader is a self-loathing Dallas Cowboys fan. You would think that the homerism would actually help, but Dallas Cowboys fans hate themselves so much, and they even hate their quarterback. I remember Steph telling us that there's a large swath of Cowboys fans who hate Dak Prescott, which, I mean, just go look. Have any Cowboys fan who hates Dak Prescott stare at the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback depth chart, stare at the New Orleans Saints quarterback depth chart, and then tell me how much you hate Dak Prescott. Cowboys fans hate everything. They really do. D. Owen says Blue is rising just from people watching his tape. He looks so much like H.N. It's uncanny. I will tell you right now, I promise you that is not why his ADP is rising. And if it is, it's because one person watched tape and tweeted about it. I do not believe that the majority of underdog drafters are watching tape. Maybe I'm wrong. If you guys are all tape heads in the chat, feel free to let me know. If everybody's been grinding Just Bombs production, Jaden Blue highlight reels. But I think people just want any excuse not to select Javonte Williams. It's why people are drafting made-up Madden players in the Chicago Bears backfield, because they don't want to select DeAndre Swift. All right, let's grab Jake Ferguson here. Lock up this double stack. I don't really want to mess with him coming back. Look at Jaden Blue sliding too. Interesting. We're going to grab Ferguson though. Here's the team. We got a 2-3-5-2, which is interesting in that we could certainly be done at both quarterback and tight end now. Bo Nix, Dak Prescott. 3 running backs: Omarion Hampton, Tony Pollard, Javonte. 5 wide receivers: CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Courtland, Sutton, Chris Olave, Luther Burden. Tight end: Trey McBride and Jake Ferguson. Isaiah Likely and Dallas Goedert come right off the board after I pick. Yeah, I wanted this pick as well. Owen says Trey Benson feels, although I can't see what the emojis are. I'm guessing it was like this, like chef's kiss or something. Yes, I was going to take Benson if he came back, and he did not. Let's see here. I don't really want to take Rachaad White on this team. We're good at tight end. We're really looking at running backs and wide receivers. I guess we could take Jalen Knoll, get a little bit wide receiver upside here along Burden, take a couple cracks. This running back tier feels pretty flat to me. The White, Algier, Davis, Roschon, Eckler. So let's just grab another wide receiver with a little upside juice here. With Hampton and Pollard, I feel pretty good where I don't necessarily need to grab a guy like Rachaad White just for the high floor of that workload. We can keep taking some swings later. Good morning, Angelina. Thank you for reminding me. I need more coffee. The emoji was an Italian pinch. Okay, thank you. Index of suspicion, 455 watchers to 67 likes. What a despicable ratio there. This is how we know we're on the worst timeline. I should start threatening. If I don't get the same amount of likes as I have viewers, I'm going to let the robots start drafting my teams for me. I do think I want to do a Deposit King. So the Deposit Kingdom video I posted last week, I planned out my entire draft. Basically, like, what is the perfect draft? Reverse engineer it, perfect draft for me, and then see if I could execute it. You can watch that video. I think I have it pinned in the chat. Going to start getting more of those like draft challenge style videos, but they're not meant to be overly gimmicky. They're meant to be almost like training exercise to push you into different pockets of the draft board, think through different things that can help you draft. But I do think it would be really fun to do a video where I do attempt to set my entire queue. I'd almost have to know what draft slot I was going to get. Maybe I could build out a few scenarios and then set the queue to draft the team, but then I put it on autopilot and I just trust my queue to do it. So if I knew my draft slot and then I could kind of play taking players a little bit ahead of ADP or have like a contingent pick within the queue, I think it might be a good video to watch me squirm as I let the autopilot take the wheel, but via the queue. So I don't know. I might have to attempt that. I think the video I'm going to do this week on the Deposit Kingdom is I'll probably get a guest and we'll do something schedule related. So hopefully we'll record that at the end of the week. And then obviously next week on Best Ball Breakfast, we will be digging into all of the goodness with the schedule. Am I drinking that coffee black? No creamer. Yeah, you know it. Occasionally, if I'm on the weekends doing like an iced coffee, I'll do like an iced latte, something like that. But yes, during the week, just black coffee straight. No coffee pour till AI gets 100 likes. That's right. I'm going to start withholding the coffee pours too. Yeah, Matt, I think you might have missed 2 coffee pours. I believe I've done 2 coffee pours so far. But here's what you're in luck. Some mornings I start drinking coffee early and then I don't have that much left, but I hadn't drank coffee until the show started. So we still have a few more in us. Let's see here. Let's grab Roschon Johnson. We have Luther Burden. We need running backs. Yeah, I think we definitely want to make this pick a running back. I wrote up an article for Fantasy Life, and I'll drop it in the chat right now last week, looking at my favorite late round running back targets right now, and basically talking about how the dynamic we're all faced with in drafts right now is a little tricky because we know where the upside generally comes from. It's traditionally from the rookies. We're all trying to find this year's Bucky Irving. But on the other hand, you open yourself up to a lot of risk with some of these running backs who might be the running back 3 on their depth chart. Like I'm probably going to have to take a Devin Neal or Jarquez Hunter or Dylan Sampson. All 3 of these guys could be the RB3s. We think things are trending to them being the RB2. Kendre Miller could be the RB3. Corum could be the RB3, Ford, etc. But there's still risk right now when we're drafting this on May 12th. So I kind of talked through like who are the backs that I feel better about their position on the depth chart. I think right now though I'm going to scoop up the Xavier Legette fall. Legette falls all the way to 172 here. Can probably shut it down at wide receiver here as well. We're going to end up having a luxury pick because we're fairly balanced, but let's grab Legette here. But anyways, in that article, one of the players that I was trying to boost my exposure to a little bit was Roschon Johnson. Obviously things could change if, they bring in a J.K. Dobbins or they pull off a trade. But I think his role as the RB2 on that team is fairly solidified, especially relative to some of these other guys who are in legit ambiguous situations as far as the RB2, RB3 status. So Roschon, a guy I want to have cracks at. We had Luther Burden on this team. So we grabbed him a little bit ahead of ADP. And now our running back room is Omarion Hampton, Tony Pollard, Javonte Williams, and Roschon Johnson here. See, I've seen a couple mentions of Taj Brooks here. Is Taj Brooks on Bengals stacks in the last round viable as a last round RB? See, to me, that's another one that I don't want to be selecting right now because there's just a really good chance, even if you love Taj Brooks, that's a 0. Because the most likely situation is he could be the running back 3 probably at best, and most likely the running back 4. He's going to be behind Zach Moss. He's going to be behind P. Ryan. If we hear incredible stuff through training camp, Taj Brooks is turning heads. Taj Brooks is taking the 3rd down role from Samaj P. Ryan, or Taj Brooks has jumped Zach Moss as the team's preferred, interior runner behind Chase Brown. Like if we get those kind of news, then it's like, all right, wheels up. But the main thing right now is just trying to avoid these zeros as much as possible. And that's tricky, right? Because we want upside with our late round selections, but you look at so many of these running backs back here, And we're firmly in that RB2 versus RB3 territory on a lot of these guys. Is he going to be behind Zach Moss? Dude has no neck. You guys are asking me questions as if I run the Bengals depth chart. The whole point is we don't know. The whole point is we don't know. And if you're just throwing darts, you are liable to take on zeros. If you're one of those people that has no problem burning a bunch of entries to kind of chase, some of these hits, Taj Brooks goes from being an 18th round pick to a 14th round pick. He makes the Kamani Vidal leap in August. By all means, I don't think the win I get from Taj Brooks going from an 18th rounder to a 14th rounder is worth taking on that risk right now. I don't see the appeal in it, especially when there are other rookie running backs that I'd argue are as equally as exciting that have maybe a less murky path to being the clear RB2. Because that's the other thing you have to ask yourself. If I'm right, if they are the RB2, what kind of CLV, what kind of value jump am I actually getting? So now we get to do this with Devin Neal. So this is one of those spots too where I think MarShawn Lloyd's spot as the RB2 is a little bit more clear than Devin Neal's. When you look at the draft capital for each of those guys in the previous years, I am going to use the correlation as the tiebreaker. I have Chris Olave on this team. Devin Neal is sliding past ADP here. And I'm just going to use that as my tiebreaker. But in general, we're already kind of to the range where MarShawn Lloyd, once Shipley and MarShawn Lloyd are off the board, there's pretty much ambiguity about all of these running backs' position on the depth chart. So there's a difference here. Kramer says, where are you in Tootin then? So the difference in that situation is, here, let me make this pick, and then we can talk about that. Because, all right, perfect. We get Lloyd here, who works out well as our sixth running back anyways. The difference in those backfields is there is legit ambiguity on who the running back one is. And to me, it's comparable to a couple years ago when you had the Devon Achane rookie season, Raheem Mostert, and Jeff Wilson. And the market said, I don't know who it's going to be. It's comparable to that Bears backfield that same year. It was like, what? It was Roschon Johnson was the rookie. You had Deontay Foreman. And who was the other back? There was another one in there. Those guys are going higher because there's legitimate paths to them being the number one. When we're talking about these RB2, RB3 situations, you are blocked from the RB1. Like, it does not matter if it's Devin Neal or Kendre Miller. Those guys are behind Alvin Kamara. So I would view the Jags backfield as a truly ambiguous situation. When you factor in, we have a new coaching staff that hand-selected Tootin in the draft, that Travis Etienne is the incumbent who has struggled at times, that the new coaching staff has nothing to do with as far as choosing him to be their running back. So I think that's a pretty different conversation than an RB2 battle behind an entrenched RB1. Oh yeah, Khalil Herbert was the running back I was trying to think of in that Bears example. But those are really the spots that I think present the most opportunity for fantasy, are those truly ambiguous situations where, especially in offenses where there's going to be a clear winner. The Dolphins example was obviously the best one of all. And I think the Jags they don't have quite the same, run scheme. The running game there isn't going to be as good as one in Miami. But I think when you look at the explosiveness of that offense, how improved they are, and how the explosiveness that they now have in that room with Travis Hunter, with Tootin, obviously with Brian Thomas Jr., I think that is a backfield I want to take stabs on both ways. I want Tootin. I want ETN. Hell, if we hear really good stuff about Bigsby, I'm happy to sprinkle him in as well, with the thought being that if there's a winner there, it could be a really, really big winner. And the thing is, too, is you give yourself multiple outs with those situations where they're priced so low that they could just have some standalone value. Like a random spike week, even in a committee spot, can help pay off their tag. Like they don't have to be league winners at those prices. And then you're essentially just free rolling the league winning outcomes where they go full Bucky Irving or there's an injury that opens things up. All right. What do we want to do here? 2672. Should we take a rookie flyer here? Io Minor. Talk about a guy who could be a 0. But we did another little teammate pairing here. And we were pretty stacked up at both quarterback, running back, tight end. So just taking a wide receiver flyer there. Getting the 2 QBs and the 2 tight ends kind of allowed me to take maybe some more aggressive stands at my wide receiver 6 or wide receiver 7 and 8 and running back 6. So let's see how it shook out here. We'll get the grade from Steph. 2682, Bo Nix and Dak Prescott at quarterback, Omarion Hampton, Tony Pollard, Javonte Williams, Roschon Johnson, Devin Neal, MarShawn Lloyd at running back, wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Courtland Sutton, Chris Olave, Luther Burden, Jalen Knoll, Xavier Legette, Alec Io Minor, and then tight end Trey McBride, Jake Ferguson. So the things I like about this team are the correlations. We got Bo Nix to Sutton. We weren't able to get any other Denver stuff. I would love to have gotten Pat Bryant instead of Io Minor. I need to go see where Pat Bryant went in this draft. Where is Pat Bryant? Did he just go incredibly early? Okay? He went at pick 184. So that was, I would have had to have taken Pat Bryant where I took Xavier Legette, and I was distracted by Xavier Legette falling that much. But yeah, Pat Bryant would have been nice to have. But I like this team. I think with Hampton, Pollard, you have a pretty good foundation at running back. Some nice starts there. Rounding it out, Lamb, Wilson, Sutton, Olave is a great 4. And then just a ton of upside with like the Burden, Noel, Legette types. Trey McBride, Jake Ferguson. And then just a ton of little teammate correlations. Pollard, Io Minor, obviously the Dallas bet. Roschon with Burden, Devin Neal with Olave. I like how that team shook out. And we will see. Maybe the bye week bros will come after me. Maybe we'll get Denver and Dallas on the same bye, and then we can come back here and we can mark this team as dead. Because it has 2 bye weeks. That's just sometimes how it goes. We're going to keep naming these teams here in an effort to stay organized on these. Let's see. Crutches wanted me to look at his 3663 build? Where are you? There you are. 3663. Caleb, Cam, Stafford, CMC, Jones, Najee, Tajay Spears, Ramondre, Jarquez, Puka, Devontae, so you get that double stack. Tet, Calvin Ridley, Rome, Wandell, Loveland, Taylor, Ferguson. Ooh, the 3 rookie tight end build, late tight end build. I guess Loveland's 106, so that's not that late. Yeah, I like this team. This is fun. Tons of correlation, huge stacks. Matthew Stafford, premium double. Chicago, really nice double there. Tennessee, you get Spears with Calvin Ridley. I like it. Yeah, I don't have any comments on it. I mean, you maybe could have done a 7th wide receiver instead of a 5th running back. I think CMC, Aaron Jones, Najee, Spears, Ramondre seems a little more solid to me than Wandell as your 6th, but that's splitting hairs. And Hunter correlates with Stafford. I like it. No bashing bye week bros today. It's their holiday. No. See, bye week bros, they're in hibernation. They are just waiting. They are feasting. No, I guess you feast before hibernation. But they're in hibernation. They're coming out. They're going to be starving. is what the deal is going to be. Once that schedule is out, no screenshot is safe. No team is safe. You could have drafted, I swear, we should do this as a social experiment where someone gets like insane CLV on multiple picks. You know, you get a really good player 30 picks past ADP. You could get Travis Hunter in the 6th round, and if you posted that team and 2 of your tight ends had the same bye week, you know what they're calling out. Bye week bros, their eyes go to one place. They don't look at any other numbers. They don't look at anything other than the bye weeks. Hey, my eyes are up here. You see this Travis Hunter CLV? No. The bye week bros don't see it. It's just going to be nonstop. Aren't your words? Nonstop. Yep, a couple of my fantasy cares leagues are underway. If you guys are in those, hop in the Fantasy Cares Discord. We got a Discord channel in there. Always enjoy participating in those. So Shorty says, Pete, I drafted a few teams last year that had 2 tight ends with the same bye and they advance. Is it really that negative EV? Well, that's I mentioned this with the quarterbacks, and I think it was Neal. Neal, are you in the chat? Are you the one? Not Orfield. The other Neal, I think, did some data on it. It is literally negative EV. It hurts your advance rates to have onesie positions with the same bye, but it is a fraction of a decimal point for some of these spots. I think it was like 1% to 2% for quarterbacks, around 1% for tight ends. So it is, by the definition, it hurts your advance rate. Does that matter? Are you willing to embrace that for other reasons? You know, I think once we have the schedule, there are certain circumstances where I'm okay making that trade-off. If I get an insane ADP faller, and they happen to have the same bye week as my other tight end, like I'm going to think that the value I'm getting offsets them having the same bye week, but I'm not going out of my way to do it. Obviously you can talk yourself into the uniqueness bump as well. Hey, these 2 quarterbacks have the same bye week. Therefore a lot of people will be avoiding them, etc. So, I mean, everything we're doing in best ball at this point is we're all just trying to eke out just like the smallest edges possible. Like I was just talking about waiting to draft Taj Brooks until later in the summer, just so I like have a slightly less risk of a 0 at my running back position. I mean, everything we discuss is really like these small percentage points of edges. The hope is that you stack these up over and over and over again, every single micro edge you can, and that it results in a really good year for you in best ball. Yeah, you could also draft 2 tight ends on different buys and still get 0 points. I think the angle that's probably most interesting to me as we're just like spitballing this is if you tack on a 3rd quarterback to 2 maybe mid-range quarterbacks that have the same bye, that most people would avoid, because generally those 2 quarterbacks, like let's take the Justin Fields and Kyler Murray example. Let's say that those 2 quarterbacks end up having the same bye. Most drafters will avoid taking those 2 together. And I realize their ADPs are close together, so it's not possible, but just envision that it is possible to get those 2 together. Most people would avoid that, saying, I don't want to take these 2 quarterbacks with the same bye. If you take those 2, then you still tack on the 3rd really late QB. Maybe on this team, I take Tyler Shough in the last round as my 3rd QB, who's kind of covering that bye week. But then you kind of get to have your cake and eat it too, right? You get the uniqueness pairing of Fields and Kyler because most drafters are avoiding it. But then you also avoid the potential hit to your advance rates, to your overall team, by papering over that bye with Tyler Shough 16.5 points in week 10 or whatever. I don't know. I'm just spitballing and having fun with you guys. This isn't an opinion, Tim. This is fact. Taking a 0 at QB is far worse than a 0 at tight end. That is an objective fact. You don't even have to caveat it in opinion. But the point is looking at the overall data on it, that even the 0 from the quarterback was still a pretty marginal hit to your advance rate. Someone. I'm pretty sure it was Neal. Tag me with your data on that from last year. I have it in a file on my computer somewhere, and I'll repost it and reshare it, because the bye week bros, they need this data. They need this data. No, Tim. Just that one. I can't have everyone around here thinking their opinions are facts. That would be scary. So we're gonna have Kerrane here joining us in a few minutes. I think so. The schedule comes out Wednesday, so we'll have ship chasing on Thursday. So we'll definitely do something with the schedule. I think my idea I wanted to pitch those guys is, you know how every year, I think it was Pat does the like mnemonic devices to help you remember the week 17 matchups. I was thinking maybe on ship chasing we could brainstorm, go through all the week 17 matchups and come up with the little phrases or mnemonic tricks to help us remember those. I don't think I got any Pickens Dak teams before the trade. I'm not much of a portfolio masturbator, so unfortunately I don't have these all off the top of my head. I'm even seeing if I had any BBM teams with Pickens up to this point. Here was a CeeDee Lamb team, but no Pickens, so he didn't run good there. Do I not have any Pickens? I thought I had at least one team with Pickens. Man, you guys don't let me get Pickens in any of these streamed rooms. Wow. In the Deposit Kingdom video, I was trying to plan it out that I got Pickens, and then I got sniped on him. Yeah, no Pickens. I am Pickens-less in my early BBMs. Looks like I have him in $8 of drafts. What would be $8? A $3 and a $5. So I got him in one puppy and one schnauzer. All right. There you go. I got a long summer of catching up on George Pickens. It's sad. It's sad. You don't enjoy roster baiting. You're missing out. I know. Yeah, I will say this. It's so early. I like using the portfolio review tools later in the summer when I actually have a decent sample size. I mean, I literally have 11 Best Ball Mania drafts. There's not much to look at right now. I will also say I'm excited. Some behind the scenes stuff I've seen for the Fantasy Life Best Ball tools. Obviously, they had the free Best Ball Hub in previous years. The development on it kind of stalled out last year, and it didn't really improve. They have completely overhauled it for this year. And I don't know the exact date on when we're going to have that ready for all of you guys to see. But I've been pretty excited about how that product has shaped up. And I was able to give a lot of feedback on the things us hardcore best ball drafters want in a portfolio review tool. So that is going to be exciting to share with you guys when that is ready. All right. I believe in previous times that Pat came on, I forgot that I had a intro for him that we had from last year. So let's get that rolling. Scuba Kerrane, Patty Millions, Peacock Pat Kerrane on the 1s and 2s.
Are you kidding me? Kadarius Toney?
98 yards to the fucking house against Carolina in week 10.
All right. Pat Kerrane, fresh off of your vacation, are you feeling refreshed? Are you feeling sun-kissed?
Yeah, I mean it was nice. It was good. There's
There were points, we've got a little 1-year-old, so there were points where I turned to Brittany. I was like, "A vacation from what?"
Yes.
Which is just sunnier here, but largely it was quite a good time. I was there with my cousin and some friends, so it was there were some kids for Vivian to play with and everything, and they were 2 6-year-olds, 2 3-year-olds, so they were kind of real intrigued by her as she kind of ran around willy-nilly. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, 6 is that range where you still have to watch them with your child, where it's like, I don't have full faith that you're not going to do something stupid, but maybe in like 3 years, I could leave you unattended with my child.
Yeah, I mean, with her, because she's so mobile now, but she's also like, who knows what I'm going to do next? That like, even just like someone having like slightly wrangling her, so you don't have to be like right over top is actually awesome. So the 6-year-olds were genuinely helpful.
Like we had we hosted for Mother's Day yesterday, and April's cousin is over, and he's like 4.5, and he's just like, high energy, little daredevil. And I'm like having to watch it every second, just like worried he's just going to like whip a toy and just like belt her in the head with it. Yes, it's a tightrope walk here. All right, let's get back in the drafting streets here. Hopping in a draft. Are you getting excited for the schedule to get released?
The schedule, yeah, man. It's now. How much do you think they're going to drip it out? Are we going to get like, because last year they really dripped it.
Oh, they're going to drip it. They're going to. Isn't it like a 4-hour like production that they do?
It's like normally the NFL doesn't. I get where they're coming from. Even if I'm like, I wish that we weren't headed to like every like a game a day at the end of the season, but I get like what prime time is and why it's helpful to them, but I really don't get this one. Just tell us the schedule, man.
I know it is like, because it's so funny, because it's like there's obviously 2 people who care about it, like diehard fans of a team. They want to know like, what are my home games? Like if I can go to games, like what's that? And then obviously fantasy players, we all just want to know the playoff schedule. But I'm like, who else is wanting to watch 4 hours of a scheduled drip? Like no one actually cares what like a random Monday Night Football game is. You just want to know if you have like season tickets, like which home games you're going to get this year.
I actually think if they just dropped it and then discussed it for 4 hours, that would be more effective.
Yes.
Because we all kind of, once we know the whole thing, we kind of want to discuss it. So you could throw on the show and they're all discussing it. That's fun.
True.
But yeah.
I was spitballing before you came on. I was saying for ship chasing on Thursday, we should, because it'll be right after the schedule, we should spend the show brainstorming the mnemonic devices for all week 17 matchups.
Yeah. I like to get those out. So that'll be a good time, because then I'll get those out after the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul likes the drop versus the drip, and Index says Pat doesn't like any foreplay. This is like, it's the worst kind of foreplay. There's good foreplay. Schedule foreplay is not a good one.
No, schedule foreplay just is not good.
All right, we're in a Best Ball Mania draft. This is my 12th here, I believe. What is this? Our 3rd draft together, Pat? Have we done 3? Yeah, this is our 3rd Best Ball breakfast. We got the 110. I did upload the most recent leg up ranks here, and we can see what we got cooking at 110. Amon-Ra, Nico look like our best choices. You got a preference this morning?
I'm good with either. I like these receivers here.
Let's do Amon-Ra. Grab him. Have you done any kind of like mega Texans onslaughts where you're grabbing like Nico, both Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel? Because like them and then Dalton Schultz at the end, like you can pretty easily get all of those guys if you want them.
I don't think I have the whole team, but I mean, you could also get Mixon. Like you can get Woody Marks. Like there's a lot you can do.
Drake London, AJ Brown, Ladd McConkey, and then Achane if you want a running back. Do you have a preference here?
I would say London, Brown, McConkey would probably be mine.
Let's do London.
London's solid.
Yeah, London here right around pick 15. with the ranks, you're going to get no Derrick Henry. What would be your target exposure for Derrick Henry, knowing that if you play it off these ranks, you'll have 0?
Pretty low. I mean, I think Derrick Henry last year we got, the Barkley hit at the Henry price now, and he's up to the 102. And, it was Barkley's season. Like, it really was Barkley's season. Last year, Henry, like, once again proved that we were overly discounting him, but we were taking him at like the 3-4 turn, or even the 4th. I think it's late 3rd to the 3-4 turn. And he paid off that price very easily. But I mean, Henry's significantly older than Barkley, and he does have like a true 2-down skill set. Barkley was like more of a 2-down guy last year, but if they started throwing to him, it would work. And I mean, if anything, like Barkley has the out of like, what if the tush push gets like late banned or something? So I don't know. I think Henry's just like one of those guys where, even though it burned me last year, it was such a cheaper price that if he's going to be up here with these receivers and Bowers and McCaffrey, you talk about the guy who could be like, oh, we should have been taking this guy at the 101. That's McCaffrey, not Henry to me. So it doesn't feel good to go back to the fading Derrick Henry well, but like we've been there many years, and the price is now back to where I think we're kind of on the winning side of the wager again, but we'll see.
Yeah. It would be nice, like if his ADP dropped closer to like the 2-3 turn, and then you could kind of just mix him in with, you see the guys going in this range, your Josh Jacobs or whatever. But yeah,
I would have him there for sure.
Having to take him over these receivers, over McBride, even over Jonathan Taylor. I can't even remember. I think I prefer Jonathan Taylor.
I think I'd rather have Taylor too.
Yeah.
And then structurally, like I do think that the receivers on the back end, like it's a nice way to start, to go 2 receivers or receiver and Bowers. So it kind of like, what am I getting if I move away from that? If I take, Genti doesn't really go there so much anymore, but he used to. So it's like Genti feels like a good reason to get away from that, and McCaffrey does too, actually. Achane is. I've come around on Achane. I was kind of bearish before the draft, but the draft went pretty well for him. So I like him better than Henry as well.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Let's see what we got going here. We start with 2 wide receivers, Amon-Ra, Drake London, Kyren falling here. We got the quarterbacks as well. Allen, Lamar, Breece is here. Tet and Worthy as well. What do you like?
I'd be down to do like Josh Allen if you want to mix it up and go elite quarterback. I don't think we've done that.
Yeah. Let's mix it up.
Okay.
Man, one of those clicks that is just, for some reason, and I guess it was the case last year, but even last year, it felt like the Kyren click was still kind of more binary, where it was like either Blake Corum's going to have a role and this isn't going to age, or it's going to be a smash because Blake Corum is just a handcuff. Like this year, the click feels even more complicated and the price is pretty much the same.
Yeah. And, you go look over at like Sean Siegel's ranks and does not make you feel confident.
What does he have him at?
I got to check what he's got him at right now, but he's not been bullish on Kyren.
Yeah,
Sean's usually ahead on things like these. So
he was bullish on Kyren last year. Okay. Do we want to grab so Breece is here, or do we want to grab another wide receiver?
I'm fine either way.
I think we can get away with it.
Okay.
Let's grab Breece, and then because I think this is generally decent pocket, on the backside of 5'6", 58, 63, to be able to grab a couple more wide receivers if we want to grab our running back here. You're basically looking at like, do you want to pull up Devontae Smith and then grab like a Trevion Henderson, Kenneth Walker type, or do you like the Breece Hall versus like Jawan Jennings, kind of combo?
Yeah, I also think you can take, like, we could go running back in the next 2 picks, and then the 7th, 8th, you could take your 3rd and 4th receivers, which isn't like what I normally do, but just the way things fall, those running backs at the 5-6 turn right now are pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
And they're strong as like late season bets too. I mean, you know, if Harvey were to fall, Henderson, we don't really need the Kamara version of the bet with Breece, I'd say, but there's running backs in that part of the draft that probably just outscore the receivers in that part of the draft. So, you know, you can get a little like loose with the structure, I think.
Yeah. Index says I need to be sold on Breece if he were traded maybe, but his QB runs so much. Wait until you hear about how much the quarterback who is teammates with the guy who led the league in rushing last year runs. I think that the argument on the quarterback running is more about like checkdowns. Like you say, hey, there's not going to be that.
Yeah.
But I mean, the quarterback running is good for the running game. It
for the
makes
running
defenses,
game.
offenses. So yeah, that would not be a concern for me with Breece and Fields.
Yeah. There's like the stuff about Fields. Fields does, you know, he does check down like some. It's not.
Yeah.
And, we're going from Arthur Smith to an offense that comes from Detroit where they're going to lean on the run, but Detroit did such a better job of leaning on the run to unlock stuff in the passing game. And they weren't afraid to pass when they needed to. Like they weren't like philosophically committed to running the crap out of the ball every single game. And then with Chicago, Fields had pretty rough coaching. So I don't know. I mean, I'm betting on basically to me, I'm just going, Breece is really good. And
yeah,
I still believe that. So
we're on the clock. Ken Walker at running back, Rome, Olave, Addison.
What if we take Addison here?
Yeah.
Because Addison, so one reason, so we think Addison, and this is from like reading guys like Drew Davenport, but it sounds like Addison is going to get suspended this year, which, his ADP probably falls, and doesn't seem like that's like fully baked in. But also, we need a receiver who we can really count on to actually be good for most of the season and be in a good situation. Obviously, McCarthy is a little bit concerning there, but given how good the coaching is and the rest of the weapons, it's like that offense is going to be good. So I kind of like him in this spot, even though we're going to miss some games early.
And again, it's, Nick, it's going to be a small, could be 3. You're unlikely to be in that 4 to 6 range where I think 1 to 2, it's like, should it move ADP a couple of slots? Sure. But anything beyond that, it doesn't really affect the game we're playing. So now we're back in the sweet spot again to get a wide receiver. Rome, Jennings, Debo, Godwin, all these guys in play.
Yeah, we missed Henderson, which is a little bit of a bummer, but I'm down for Rome or Jennings. Jennings pairs well with Addison if we want to do that.
Sure. I select a lot of Jennings. I love how you just casually sneaked in. We missed out on Henderson. Well, we clearly needed a wide receiver, and you just wanted another excuse to set up Drake May. How much Henderson do you have? If we missed out on Henderson at pick 63.
This way, he goes at 60, right? His ADP is like 60.
Yeah. I mean, I like Henderson, but I've never uttered the words I missed out on Trevion Henderson. I guess I'm not.
I like getting one of these. I was hoping to get one of the backs, one of the exciting backs in this range. So Henderson, Walker, both those guys would have been fun in the 6th.
We'll now do the 2v2. What do you like better, Devontae Smith and Trevion Henderson, or Breece Hall and Jordan Addison?
Breece Hall and Jordan Addison.
Yeah, I think I'm still there.
But I think there could be another 2v2 that I do like better, which would be like Henderson and receiver later versus Addison and whatever running back we take.
Yeah.
I think we can end up liking that 2v2.
I think in these streamed rooms and then where we do the Josh Allen, I like the Henderson pick a lot better if this pick where we took Allen is say Tet or another wide receiver.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me.
Because you kind of have, we'll still probably be in a decent pocket. you can get the Reed, the Ayuk, the Shakir, but then it really gets it falls off there. But we're up to 4. We got our quarterback, our running back. So now I think we're kind of in decent flexibility range here.
Yeah, I mean we're back on schedule for sure.
Yes.
The thing
what
about
if
Allen,
McCarthy prefers Hawk over Addison? What if? What if anything?
Well, maybe you will.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
I was just saying Allen is a little harder to stack now with like the Kincaid, knee. Hey, I've had a bunch of knee surgeries. Does that freak anyone out?
Yeah. I mean, nothing with stacking Josh Allen is really fun. I mean, if you get Shakir, it's clean, but I mean, Shakir
but he's
goes
on the other
74.
side.
Yeah. But Jaden Reed here at pick 82 looks good to me. Aaron Jones, Hawkinson, Burden, anything else you like?
One of the Vikings would be interesting, and then we could play to get a receiver coming back, but I'll leave that to you. I'm fine either way.
Let's do Reed first and then see if we can get, the teams behind us. I think it could go either way. It's also fun. Everybody wants to Galbrain our divisional stacks before the schedule comes out. We get a little Amon-Ra, Jordan Addison, and now Green Bay there loading up.
I do like, going NFC North and just hoping you bank something.
Yep. I've not gotten to a lot of Aaron Jones in my drafts. Yeah.
I have a hard time clicking him. Like I have a harder time clicking him than I probably should, but it's just the way he kind of finished up last year, and he's over the hill. He's dealt with a bunch of hamstring injuries over the years. It's like, I don't know, just a very difficult click for me to make.
Yeah, and it just feels like he's closer to the Brian Robinson Pacheco's than he is the Tony Pollard, James Connors. So Hawk does come back. I'm definitely down to do that.
Well, I was actually thinking, like, what if McCarthy prefers Hawk to Addison?
How about this, Pat? What if McCarthy prefers Hawk and Addison to Justin Jefferson?
Oh, now we're talking.
All right. Here's the team through 8 rounds. Josh Allen at quarterback, Breece Hall at running back, 5 wide receivers, Amon-Ra, Drake London, Jordan Addison, Jawan Jennings, and Jaden Reed, and then TJ Hawkinson at tight end.
I like it.
Yeah, not bad.
I like your wide receivers. I'm a little worried about your running backs.
Yeah. We'll see. The one thing that is the reason it's fun to mix up, some of the builds with Josh Allen here, it's like a lot of times you're just selecting quarterbacks in rounds 9, 10, and 11.
Yep.
It's like the sweet spot. We're now like making McCarthy probably a target. So now all of a sudden we can grab a couple running backs in this 106, 111, maybe it's Sharps, Tootin, whatever guys, Brian Robinson fall in there. You mix up the build, a pocket that you're normally having to skip just out of like pure necessity. For sure.
Yeah, and that's it's fun to kind of mix it up and then see what happens after that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about Allen is, like, although he's not that stackable, it's probably fine. He's so, he spread the ball around last year, and then he runs so much. And then we can do stuff to get like ancillary bills on the roster very cheaply.
Yes.
So I think ultimately we'll have some correlation with him.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, you see how that offense ran last year. And like, I mean, I love correlating so much, but Josh Allen is like one of the ones where it's just like the whole offense is built out of him. Yeah. And if I am correlating, I either want it to be like at value or just cheap. So yeah, like Ray Davis, I think is always kind of a fun, cheap piece to add with Josh Allen.
Yeah, that's one of the guys I was thinking about.
Well, Pat, it could be your lucky day. Zach Charbonnet, Jordan Mason, Jalen Warren went one pick before.
I think Mason makes a lot of sense here. It's like
too.
The exact type of back that we want to add. The correlation is nice.
Yeah.
I think
And-
Mason's gonna be their goal line back, I think, and then
Well, Pat,
maybe.
have you considered if McCarthy prefers handing off to Jordan Mason?
That I actually think might be true.
The sidekick tool needs a live a little button where it randomizes slappy picks.
It has a custom rankings feature, so you can do that. You can go ahead and upload whatever slappy ass rankings you want.
I love how Davis was saying he was going to build an actual slappy model as if the model just didn't fully exist in his head already.
Well, yeah, you see.
I think
let's do
definitely a running
Sharps.
back here. Sharps.
Yeah.
Look, this is via the regs. If you want to talk about a rage where you should be selecting quarterback, it's Zach Charbonnet in a sea of quarterbacks.
That's crazy. I mean, yeah, we have stacked Purdy, so it would make sense. But I think, yeah, running back very clearly there for me.
All right, here's the team now. I think we're in good shape. 1-3-5-1. Allen at quarterback. Just added 2 more running backs to Breece Hall, Jordan Mason, and Zach Charbonnet. Still got our 5 wide receivers: Amon-Ra, Drake London, Addison, Juwan Jennings, Jaden Reed, and then Hawkinson at tight end here.
So that's a fun build. It's always nice when you catch like the end of that little tier of running back. You're like, I got a couple of them.
Yes,
Breece is an RB1.
Yeah, and I would have been interested in Tootin there as well, but I do like Sharbs a good bit. And then looking, the interesting thing, obviously McCarthy is a pretty big target for this team. I'm trying to see what the Jefferson drafter has Burrow. We'll see if he drafts him. I don't know about for you, but anecdotally, I feel like McCarthy is a guy that has such a wide band for his ADP. Like I see him go all over.
Mhm.
Like sometimes I'll see him like go 110 to the Jefferson drafter, and then sometimes he'll slide.
Yeah, I mean he's a rookie. He's basically a rookie. So it's like, what do you see in him? How much do you believe?
Yeah.
How much do you value the stack?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not so sure he matters that much for the stack, but I could be wrong, which is why, you do see kind of such a range for him.
The nice thing is we got a lot of cover here. Like, look at all these other options: Brock, Goff, Love, all stacked here. And we'll see probably all of them go off the board before this next pick, but this room is definitely pushing quarterback here.
And we don't have to take McCarthy, like, to the point, like, I don't mind stacking up the Vikings, especially because we have Mason. Then you have a tight end, and then you have a deep threat receiver, or at least a downfield guy. So, like, we don't need McCarthy to hit our lineup with on a Josh Allen team. And we have other bets at quarterback. So is Jordan Love? Yeah, Jordan Love's still here with Reed.
Yeah.
You could do stuff with him later.
Yeah, I still think I think any of those, yeah, and I knew these were going to start to come off the board
So
here.
Love comes off, yeah.
Yeah. Trying to see. So the only other thing to be conscious of, the one drafter behind us already is probably done with Mahomes and Knicks, but then the other drafter has 0 quarterbacks so far as well. And so all of those targets. We still have Michael Penix as a target too.
We still have Michael Penix, yeah.
So the question is, do we would we want to take a Dalton Kincaid here?
No,
a
I
little
don't
ahead
think
of
so.
ADP.
Just with
Then-
the injury stuff.
Then is it grabbing a Penix or McCarthy or?
I'd honestly rather
running
take
back.
like a Ramondre and just like
Yeah.
shore up running back a little bit. And then we figure out quarterback.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think we should grab one of Penix or McCarthy at 130.
I agree. But if maybe this guy double taps him, but there are other quarterbacks available. So
Yeah. He goes Lawrence, and I think he has Tet, so he's probably interested in Bryce Young a bit. Yeah. Let me just see. I need a refresher on the Buffalo ADPs. Kincaid 137, Davis 140. Oh yeah, you still have Palmer there, and then it's pretty bleak after that. All right. Do you want to go? Do you have a preference to Penix or McCarthy for this team?
I prefer McCarthy, just given how much we've bet on the Vikings. But
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do that. And now we got the Minnesota Megastack with his running back 1, his wide receiver 1, and his tight end 1 as per the hypotheticals. And then we got Josh Allen still naked. 2-4-5-1, Allen, McCarthy, Breece Hall, Mason, Charbonnet, Ramondre. 5 wide receivers still, Amon-Ra, London, Addison, Jawan Jennings, Jane Reed, tight end, TJ Hawkinson.
I like it.
Yep, Pat just had to get a New England player. Fine, if I can't get Trevion, I'll add Ramondre. I did
notice Drake May going off the board, little knife.
See, well, here's the thing, Pat. We've taken him in the previous 2 basketball breakfasts. We took him at 110 and 111, respectively. And you'll notice here he went at 128. This would have been a fun conversation if Drake May came back to us at 130, and then you had us pass up on one of the stacks to take naked Drake May.
Would I have done that? That doesn't sound like me. I think I would have just stayed true to what we were already doing. I wouldn't have gotten distracted by Drake May past ADP. Come on. Give me some credit.
Dude, that just reminded me. So my father-in-law and them were over for Mother's Day, and he was asking me my thoughts on like the Patriots draft, and I was getting him stoked on Travion Henderson. And he goes,
"Oh, nice."
He goes, "But did you see this guy they picked up off of waivers or whatever?" He starts describing him. I'm dead serious. I go, Land Larison. He's like, yeah. He's like, you should see some of these highlights. So apparently they've been showing Land Larison highlights on local New England TV shows because that's the only place he would have seen it. But he was like, I don't want to talk about Trevion Henderson. I want to talk about Land Larison. I was like, I have to do this all week already with Davis, and now I have to do it here with you too.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I did not know that New England was all in a tizzy for Land Larison.
I'm like, what station is showing Land Larison highlights? So I just leaned into the bit and I was like, yeah, he kind of reminds me a lot of Danny Woodhead,
Oh my God.
I didn't know P was married to Davis's daughter. All right, we're back on the clock here. Let me get the quarterbacks off the board. Algier is here if we want to do another Atlanta guy. Brenton Strange, Hunter Henry. We could get Palmer if we want to lock him up.
We might just want to do Palmer and do like the single stack.
I think so. Yeah, let's do Palmer.
It's not super fun, but whatever.
It is what it is. I mean, we're basically asking Palmer to like do what Matt Collins did down the stretch last year for Buffalo, which seems fine.
You're kind of at the range of receiver where it's like all these guys are kind of the same, but at least it's like it gives us that correlation. So we're betting on it to flow through Palmer one of the important weeks, which is not crazy to me.
I'll take Larison over Gibson or Stevenson. You had me at Gibson. I don't. Stevenson might be a bridge too far there.
I do love this time of year though, because you're like, give me Land Larison over Ramondre straight up, and then you're like, then Land Larison like never makes the roster. Like it's a beautiful time of year.
Yeah. And then Land Larison gets to learn practice squad. You want to grab Algier here?
Algier seems great. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Algier is my most drafted running back through my draft.
Yeah, we love him. We love Algier. Algier's good. He's the clear-cut handcuff, right? Like those are two key pieces of information that normally have guys with one of the pieces of information. We sometimes draft guys in like the 10th or 11th round.
Yep.
Like, what is really the difference besides like the minor chance that like Ken Walker or Charbonnet gets traded? Algier's very close to Charbonnet as far as like what we think he is and how clear cut the takeover is.
I think the only difference, Sharbs is a better pass catcher.
Sharbs is a better pass catcher. That's true. But
no, your point's taken. I had Scott Bloomstein on After Dark, and I was asking him some of his favorite plays, and he was trying to get me stoked on Najee, but I was kind of making the argument. Or who was the other guy he was trying to get me stoked on? I'm blanking now. But I was using Algier as an example of like where you can get that contingent upside and a little standalone value
Mm-hmm.
for a lot cheaper. And he does just stand out to me in that range. And maybe you can sell yourself on like Rico being similar, but I just think Algiers a better, even like just pure runner than Dowdle, kind of like what you're getting.
Yeah, I do too. Najee's just a little too expensive. I don't think he's a terrible pick or anything, but it's just like Ramondre, it's the same sort of situation as Ramondre. It's maybe, it's a little better because it's a better offense, but yeah, I guess he went pretty similarly here.
Yeah, and the nice thing too is like with this build, we have a base at both running back and wide receiver where we can absorb some more like rookie flyers, with Hall, Mason, Sharps, Ramondre, Algier. Like there's no like depth chart concerns here. And same for our wide receiver room. Like everything we know is pretty locked in here. And now we can maybe take some more upside shots.
Yeah, I agree. We have a high floor from if you're healthy, will you be active perspective?
Yes. So we're on the clock here. Kate
Otten probably is. What else is left to tight ends?
There's not a lot. We're down into the DeChavian,
I think we take
Sanders,
Otten.
Chig.
Yeah, he's the last of a tier.
Yeah, the tight ends really flew off the board there. Yeah, and there's dart throws you can make. But you start to put yourself in a little dicey where it's like, do you play TJ Hawkinson as an elite where you can pair him with like a rookie dart? Or is that then forcing you to a 3 tight end build the longer you wait?
Right.
Man, Pat Bryant continue. I was trying to get him out right before you came on. I was wrapping up a Bo Nix team. And he went early. I wasn't able to get him there. He seems like a guy that continues to steam up.
Yeah, and it's a range where the value change doesn't really matter. So I don't fault the steam. It seems fine.
I don't mind the Lloyd pairing with Jaden Reed if you like one of these wide receivers.
Lloyd's fine. Devin Neal's also interesting to me. It's just like down the stretch, what if he's the best back they got?
Yeah, let's do Lloyd.
Okay.
I think just having the teammate tiebreaker to push it over the top there, I kind of like. And I think I was actually talking about this too before, that I just feel a little bit more confident about Lloyd's position on the depth chart, whereas I don't think it would be shocking if we hear stuff of like, Neal's still battling out with Kendre Miller for the RB2, yada, yada.
Man, it's a tough break for Neal that Dennis Allen isn't the coach anymore.
Oh, he would be a smash. He would be an absolute smash. You would just need him talking about who is the guy. Was it Bub Means that he would just rave reviews about?
Was it Bub Means? Yeah.
Or was there another? They had another Mason Tipton. It was
Okay.
Mason Tipton. He would also just be like, "This guy is an angel. I want him to marry my daughter."
He loved Taysom, and he never
Yes.
said nice things about most of the players. He's such a negative coach. God. Coach Peak Index was always like, as soon as Dennis Allen gets fired this year, he's never getting another head coaching job. Like the way he talks about his players is absurd.
I know. Yeah, you want to talk about not angling for like future success. Like he was not auditioning for future jobs. The way he was going out like a man who knew this was his last gig. Might as well burn it all the way down.
I'm gonna burn this to the ground.
Man, isn't he like wasn't Bub Means a rookie last year? And now he's already a remember that guy? That's sad.
Okay, so I promised we'd pull up the Kyren rank for Sean. How many spots separate Kyren Williams and Jarquez Hunter in Sean Siegel's redraft rank?
Running back slots or just straight ADP?
No, just straight up spots.
Straight
How many
ranking?
overall ranking spots?
God, I feel like I'm being baited. Like I want to say 10, but I feel like the answer is going to be like 3.
The answer is 1.
Okay. You know what I need to do next week for my solo draft? I just need to draft off of Sean's ranks and have some fun. Torrey Horton, Ray McLeod,
Torrey
A.D.
Horton
Mitchell.
would be kind of fun. What's the Seattle? Oh, Charbonnet.
Charbonnet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Horton
you could also have
or Mitchell would be kind of good.
Yeah, let's
Ray
let's
could
take
be good too. Any of these guys.
Yeah, let's take we have room for a rookie dart on this team. So we're at a 2-6-7-2.
We still have the streak
running
going,
back.
right? Late round rookie wide receiver on every single BBM winner.
Ooh. Oh yeah.
That actually contributed. It was Mims for Herzig. He got him through, I think, week 16 or week 15 at the time, the semifinals.
Yeah, Liam was Amon Ra.
I was Tyquan
Thornton, the worst of the bunch.
The worst of the bunch.
Reed had
Jaden Reed, and then last year I think it was Pearsall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Torrey Horton, there you go.
So
Our
we need
generation.
Torrey Horton. Yeah.
Wow. No one. Matthew Stafford going undrafted in this is hilarious.
We could do it if you want.
Eh.
Just get us through the bye week or something. We don't know where they are. Mitchell's fine.
Yeah. I was going to say Mitchell, unless you want to do a Ty Felton, rip it in Minnesota stack.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we kind of have the luxury, I think, to take a huge swing, even though 80's probably the smarter pick, but we'll have some fun here. The crowd goes wild.
That seems fun.
Yeah.
Wait, I misread Sean's ranks. He has Travis Hunter, one pick behind Kyren.
Travis Hunter. I was gonna say, all right, yeah. Let's not slander him.
Let's not slander Sean's ranks. I'm sorry,
yes.
Sean. My apologies. He does have. Wow, he's low on Travis Hunter. He's got Kyren at 68, Hunter at 69, Jarquez Hunter's at 112. So there is not as big a gap as you'd expect. But
I assume, does he have Hunter over Corum? I assume.
Yeah, Corum, I think, is in the one. Corum's at 147.
Okay.
So he's still kind of into Corum, too. Which makes sense because he's just fading Kyren, it looks like.
Yep.
But when Sean's fading a guy like Kyren, it makes me nervous. Because he's not fading like that whole kind of cohort. Like, he likes Chase Brown just fine, 35.
Well, and if we think through how things played out last year, and you even think, McVay actually has been a pretty reliable narrator kind of about how he talks about his running backs. I remember we all wanted, myself included, like Zach Evans to be a thing that one year. And it was just like, he doesn't talk that great about Zach Evans, even though he had kind of the peripherals to be exciting. But it's like last year they said they wanted essentially like a Kyren clone in someone that could step in and do what Kyren did if, he got taxed with too many touches or got hurt. And this year they go out and draft like a different type of player who doesn't profile like this touch grinder, who is actually can give them explosives. And it's like, they're going to want to get that guy on the field. As opposed to just being insurance in the backfield. And I think that should give us more pause with the Kyren workload projection this year.
Yeah, it's tricky because they do like really trust Kyren, and he's been like fine. Like Kyren, it's sort of perfect. If you look at rush yards over expected, he was at 0 last year. So it's just like he gets you what is expected. But I think that's what they love about him, is that you can like trust this guy to just like get what's blocked very consistently. And he's a great pass protector. So it's just like it's just trust. They use him a ton in pass protection. Davis was pointing that out. It's like they really trust him. And that trust is like hard. Like I think that trust it creates kind of a moat, especially to a rookie. And Corum did not run well last year. So, he may have kind of dodged that bullet. So I think it's very possible that Kyren's just like what we saw last year again. And, they run so much around the goal line that even if Devontae like really takes the passing game up another level, they're still probably going to score plenty of rushing touchdowns. So from that perspective, I'm kind of nervous to fade Kyren at this price. on the other side, it's like it's tough when you're just like year after year, you're like, all right, we're doing this again. This guy's like not that great, and it's basically just a bet on volume. I mean, his profile is very dead zoney, you know.
Right. And I would like, that's why I think it's hard for me with his current price. Like, I think Joe Mixon is kind of like a good example of the, like, if I'm going to make that archetype bet, I'd rather just do it, mix in a full round later.
Or Chuba.
And, yeah.
I mean, he probably won't have everything, you know, but there's other guys.
And this will be the part that I will have.
Yeah.
Joey says, just give me my 8% Kyren, which I do think is probably the right answer, but I'm going to have to work to get to that 8%, I think.
Yeah, I think, and this is like probably a leak, so I'm not, you know, but when you have Kyren there, like we did, and you're like, oh yeah, we could take Kyren here, or I could take someone else that's more fun, and then I'll probably get Breece or Hampton in the 4th, and maybe Kyren will fall, and then he never falls. So then you end up with a lot of Breece, which I'm fine with. But it's like I should just be more willing to take some Kyren there, you know, because it's not that different.
It isn't. It isn't. I think the interesting thing is like, will his price fall? Because I do think if we get really positive, like OTA stuff from Jarquez Hunter, and they're like, this is a weapon they're not going to be able to afford to keep off the field. Like the whole thesis of the Kyren price tag is predicated on that volume. And I think the second you start to strip away some of that, obviously that didn't happen last year. Blake Corum, you know, took away nothing. But if the market thinks that Hunter is, then I do think we'll see Kyren fall a little bit. And so I'm wondering, like, can I wait this out for a little bit until he is priced closer to a Joe Mixon or Chuba?
He could fall, but I also think he could rise, because I think there could just be stuff of like, this is Kyren's backfield. Like Hunter looks fine, you know. They like what he's doing as a kick returner or something, you know. But you know, so much of the summer, right, is like we were like getting in mailbag, you know how you all guys all do this. You get in Greg Allman's mailbag and you ask him about Ronald Jones.
I do now. I cannot relate to this example.
you know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
And then Greg's like, I don't know, man. Like it's probably what it was last year. Like I don't think we should expect some giant leap from this second year guy. Didn't do anything as a freshman. So there's gonna be a lot of that we're going to be talking to these beats or, you know, scouring their reports for stuff about the rookies. And in a lot of cases, we're just not going to hear that much. And that right there would lead to a rise. Like that's all it would take to lead to Kyren rising, I think. Because if like they hadn't drafted Hunter, he's probably more like early 3rd. And it could feel like they basically didn't draft Hunter by the time we hit August.
Here's my counter to that. Last year, Kyren was coming off an awesome year. I think a better year, right, than he had this past year, his year 2 years ago. Am I right?
Similar? Maybe it was better. Let me pull up, at least by.
Yeah, but fact check this before I fire off.
Yeah, no, you're right. He was, at least in terms of the next gen stuff, he was significantly better in both success rate and rush yards over expected in 2023 than 2024.
And so that we had that enthusiasm, like coming off the big year, and the market was still already pretty scared. And like he did fall and then was like hovering in the 3rd. And then obviously the Corum stuff brought on uncertainty, and like the offseason news like broke pretty well for him. Like we did have that stretch where it was like Kyren was going to return punts for a hot second. That like spooked people. But like people were already trepidatious with him. And now I feel like those things are stacking. And I'm not, again, saying one way or the other. I'm just saying the idea of him rising seems less likely to me, just knowing people have been inherently skeptical about him, even through the good times, I would say.
Well, I guess, I think he would rise probably not like alone, but potentially in tandem with some other backs. Like, what's your read on kind of this ADP holding? These wide receiver prices are a little down from last year, but not like significantly. I think we're probably still like wide receiver prices are still probably a little higher than in 2023. 3, even though they're not as high as last year.
Yeah.
Is it possible we get the running backs kind of moving up a little bit over the course of the season? That's the old theory, right? That the running backs will rise. Do you think that happens?
I think so. I think in this 4th and 5th round is probably where it's going to be the most fluid. Of the running backs who could like move into the 3rd round, I still think it's probably Hampton that is most likely to like get up here and like, jump a Kyren if we start to get really bullish signals on him.
That's a good call.
But you're right. Like, I mean, I was joking last week. I was like, could Harvey flip Joe Mixon? Well, guess what? He flipped it in this draft.
Yes.
But you could totally see, like, I hear more kind of negative sentiment, both DJ Moore. I hear people say Zay Flowers is overvalued. Like, you could for sure see Harvey and Mixon essentially just switch spots with Zay Flowers and DJ Moore. And that wouldn't surprise me at all.
No, yeah. That wouldn't surprise me either.
Joey says classic names will rise: JT, Kyren, Mixon, Walker, Kamara. See, I disagree. Like I think those.
I don't think Kamara rises.
I don't think Kamara rises.
I don't think Walker rises either.
We've had Kenneth Walker essentially in this same spot. Like you need like an instigating force to like move these guys up. Like if you told me Trevion Henderson moves up, I would buy that. Like if you tell me he's electric at practice, they want to give him a big roll out of the gate, like the market will say no more. We will happily draft it. Whereas like everyone knows what Kenneth Walker is. Everyone knows what Kamara is. There's just not an excitement or even a domino. It's like Devin Neal gets a hamstring pull during OTAs. Like people aren't going to move Alvin Kamara up because of that. Like it just, his price is what it is. Yeah,
I mean, as well, like, the Carr retirement, if anything, Kamara is going to be falling a bit. It's sort of like Kamara's like so specifically Kamara that maybe it doesn't matter like that much, but it's not good, that they're going to have a rookie. Like the idea, if you told us in January that Alvin Kamara's full season starter was going to be Tyler Shough, we would have said, who is Tyler Shough? And then you would have told us that he's a 26-year-old former backup to Justin Herbert at Oregon in 2018, who basically never really played until this final season because he was hurt all the time. But scouts really like the way he throws. We would have gone, oh no. I guess maybe I'd take Kamara in the 8th round, 9th round. I think we would not have been happy. So
okay. What you really need is you get the training camp reports that Alvin Kamara and Tyler Shough have been like training at a high school field, and they're just like drilling 2-yard out checkdowns. They're there every day doing the same 2-yard pass. And it's like, all right. We do need to recap this team here as we've been dancing around it. I'll list off the full build and then give me your thoughts here on what we cooked up in our 3rd draft together here on Best Ball Breakfast. Pulled the elite quarterback card here. Josh Allen with JJ McCarthy. We got Breece Hall, Jordan Mason, Zach Charbonnet, Ramondre Stevenson, Tyler Algier, and MarShawn Lloyd at running back. Wide receiver Amon-Ra, Drake London, Jordan Addison, Juwan Jennings, Jaden Reed, Joshua Palmer, Torrey Horton, and Ty Felton. And then 2 tight ends, TJ Hawkinson and Cade Otton. Obviously a big bet on Minnesota here. What do you like?
Yeah, I like the big bet on Minnesota. I think that's fun. I like the Ty Felton dart throw at the end. Correlate with, especially because we have McCarthy. I think that's fun. The one thing I wish we did differently, I think it would have been Ramondre that we wouldn't have. I wish we'd reached for Ray Davis and even Ray Davis over Ramondre, which is kind of a little like, that it feels reachy because like Ramondre is going to get points out of the gate, you would think, but so it would have been a pretty big reach, but it would have been fun to have Ray Davis on this team.
Yeah, and I'm looking at where he went, and it was a tough spot because he went 148, and like you said, we did Ramondre at 130. We had to lock up one of our quarterbacks at 135.
Yeah,
and then he doesn't come back. So you're right; it would have had to have been in lieu of the Ramondre pick.
I wish we just took JJ, right, and then maybe Ramondre gets sniped, and we go, you know what? Just take Ray Davis here.
Well, I did try to get you to take JJ there, and he said,
"You did.
I must have a New England.
I must draft a Patriot." Because you know what the real leak was? is that so if you think about like the 2v2 combinations, we could have gone JJ, then we go Ray Davis, and then when we took Algier, we just take Land Larison.
Nothing would strengthen my relationship with my father-in-law quite like taking a screenshot of saying I just selected Land Larison in the 18th round. I'm always having to find ways to prove to them that I actually have a job. I think sending a screenshot, hey, I drafted this team on stream with Land Larison. Also, so Steph, Pat, I don't know if you've noticed so Steph is my resident grader. She gives me grades on all of my drafts. And when her legendary upside boss isn't here, she's a notoriously tough grader, constantly dishing out C's. And then funny, you show up and all of a sudden the A's start flowing. So I just want you to know that I think this is bullshit.
Let's look at the rest of the chat though. We get no fan and A-. We get an A+ from Joey. We get min cash ass team, which isn't an A, but that's probably like a B+. B.
Still got to get there, bro.
Min cash is it's not a C. You know.
Did I missed my earlier grade? Did she give me an A- on my first team? Okay. All right.
A B+ from Mark. So B+, A- we're in that range. I'm not.
Well, you're a Cowboys fan, Steph, so you know.
All right, here come the B's. The B crews come. Oh, A-. Agree with Steph. There we go.
Okay, thank you.
So people just like the team. B. That's all.
Well, the other thing I was saying is these are our final days, Pat, of freedom from the bye week bros, because the bye week bros.
Yes.
Those grades are going to start coming down because they're going to start looking at these teams. They're going to be like 6 of your wide receivers have either a week 7 or a week 12 bye. Don't love it.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, like, there's the bye week uncertainty where we're sitting there with like the Matthew Stafford. It's like, should we just take naked Matthew Stafford for no reason? But what if Allen and McCarthy have the same bye? You know?
I'm trying to see what happened with. I'm like looking at the Puka team did Daniels and Goff. They got Goff at an insane value with Daniels, so I get that. And then what did the Devontae Adams team did Baker and Caleb, and then decided what?
So
but
he
this
go
is
and
what I
draft
don't
him?
get. Anthony Richardson over Stafford on an Adams team as your QB3. That's where I guess.
What are the other QBs?
For who?
For the Anthony Richardson guy?
Baker and Caleb. But they had Devontae. I was just trying to figure out why Stafford.
I don't hate it, honestly. Because Richardson, like, you need someone to come out. Like, those are two good quarterback options. You're like looking for the guy to come over the top from time to time. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I think you could sell me on that if you had better job security for Richardson, right? Where, like, if it was in previous years where you had the Bo Nix or Drake May or the cheap quarterback late that had some juice. Whereas, like, if you're getting the stack at that price too. And also, if people are wondering how Shedeur Sanders falls in the draft, you could use the Matthew Stafford example. Every team's like good. They're looking around and they're like, I don't want to deal with this low ceiling ass headache. Next thing you know, Matthew Stafford is an 18th round pick. This is the Shedeur thing, just in a best ball microcosm.
Yeah, it's true. And you know what it is too? It's the same thing as the NFL. There's a bunch of teams that are like us. Like we didn't put the work in on Matthew Stafford. We didn't plan for this.
No.
What we're supposed to take Matthew Stafford now? I don't think we want to do. Should we do that? I haven't thought about this guy once. And then, now I'm expected to draft him.
I wish we could have cut. So it was east of Ethan here, who selected him. If we could cut to him at his home, scooping up the value at 208, just unstacked QB3 unnecessary, and he's just. Yeah, we did it.
The press conference is going to be. This is a blockbuster pick.
He's like, so why did you feel the need to select Matthew Stafford there with Jalen Hurts and Bryce Young all stacked up, no Rams on your team? And he's like, well, sir, the owner called down and said this CLV stat that it's going to boost in your portfolio review is going to just hit like crack.
It's probably plus EV for the bye week coverage, or maybe you get the spike week thing probably can't happen, but maybe it covers a bye. You never know. The slightest little fist pump. I like that from Benny. Hooray.
It's just like the saddest CLV. Like everyone's sharing, like, oh, I got, Jarquez Hunter and he rose 4 rounds. And it's like, well, Matthew Stafford went in the 150s all summer, and that one draft in May, I got him at 208, bitches. Oh man.
The winner's already been drafted. Matthew Stafford.
used to be the please post this on Twitter. Gray out every single other pick other than Matthew Stafford 2-8. Shut it down, boys. Winner's already been drafted.
See you in 2026.
Oh man. Let's see. Is there a week 17 matchup that you can draw up in your head that would be the most fun? Like in a couple years ago, we had the Cincy Chiefs one that everyone was getting really excited about. What would be the like absolute firework week 17 matchup?
I think it would be, I think if we get like a really good one that's like not in division, right? Because there's going to be stuff in division that we were like, okay, this is what we were kind of hoping for and we'll be excited. But it would be nice if we get one that's like kind of cross divisional. I'm trying to like what team, like the Vikings would be a fun team.
Vikings are always fun, and they always end up with the Packers. Can we get the Vikings not with the Packers one time? Yeah.
Who do they actually play?
Patriots versus Bengals. Don't even give me no.
Hey, they won it last time. Okay, yeah, that's my answer now. Patriots versus Bengals.
It'd be like fucking 15th in my power ranks for these games. Vikings, Patriots, stop. Everybody's just pandering to Kerrane.
Vikings, Patriots. No, these are just good games. I don't see it as pandering.
Let's see Drake May, score more than 15 touchdowns in a season before we start talking about him in the best games.
Detroit Dallas would be good. Vikings, Bengals. Do they play? That would be fun.
How about this? So the things I want for this are obviously a dome or warm weather is preferable. I want offenses that don't take their feet off the gas. So the Lions are one, like the Niners, I would say, the Bucks, like a combo combo of those 3 teams, Lions, Niners, Bucks, I think would be legit.
All right. So we know, here's the Vikings. We know they play the Ravens, the Bengals. Okay. I mean, that's probably Vikings, Bengals would be pretty awesome. They're at home as well. So that'll be my answer. I'll take the two suggestions that included the Patriots. Remove the Patriots from both and have those teams play each other.
There you go. Shirad says Buffalo versus Cincy too soon. I'm sure Kerrane would like to run that back. Bucks versus Dolphins. I don't know, man. I need to see it again from the Dolphins, like before I have faith in their offense.
I don't want the Dolphins. The Dolphins are not going to be. No one will get that excited about the Dolphins.
No. And I think the other thing too is you want a team whose identity. I guess the Lions are such an exception because they're such a Death Star. I was going to say like a team whose identity isn't like fully the run. Right. Like I like that the Bucs are like, yeah, we have a good run game, but we still just want to sling the shit out of it.
Just as an aside. Unrelated, Bucks do play the Patriots this year.
We're trying to come up with, Mike, our favorite potential Week 17 matchup games, and the chat keeps pandering to Pat by including the Patriots. Like you can literally pick any team, and the chat is sick enough to think I would want the Patriots as part of that number one.
They play the Bengals and the Bucks.
We just have to get more Drake May. We just have to.
Yeah. All right, Pat, let people know what's going on at Leg Up this week.
Yeah, I'm going to be back in the streaming streets this week after taking a few days off the end of last week. Obviously, we got the schedule release coming, so we're going to be updating all the rankings for that shortly thereafter. And going to have eliminated ranks launching soon. Have been waiting until the schedule launches for that, but look for those soon. It's all over on legendaryupside.com. Check it out.
Beautiful. All right. We'll catch you next time on Best Ball Breakfast. Check Pat out tomorrow on ADP Chasing. That'll be at 10 a.m. Eastern. And then Pat Davis and myself will be back for ship chasing at 3 p.m. on Thursday. All right, we'll catch you later, Pat.
Later.
All right, Michael Leone joining us on Best Ball Breakfast. I need to get a little stinger for when you come on. I had one last year for Sean. I had one for Pat. I need you maybe think about this episode as basically the kind of the place we will mine for sound bites. So if you can have like a lot of like big reactions to things like, let's fucking go, baby, like after every pick.
Helpful play.
Yes, exactly. That would be helpful, I think, to our editing team. Do you have a matchup that would be your dream Week 17 matchup?
Whew. Man, I didn't think about that too much.
You can start with Bills if you'd like.
I mean, yeah, I'm thinking from fantasy perspective. If we get maybe like Bears Lions or something, we get the Ben Johnson offense succeeding in Chicago. We get that maybe in Detroit in a dome game in the playoffs. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I think the dome, I don't want to deal with any of your Buffalo Week 17 outdoor weather for this. I'm sorry, I have to veto that. All right, hopped in a Best Ball Mania draft. We got the 1-8. Let me get us up here on screen. That is the wrong screen. How things been going behind the scenes with the rankings? Obviously, the Metcalf Pickens trade was something everybody had to adjust for. You guys had a pretty aggressive move on Metcalf, right?
Yeah, we had a pretty aggressive move on Metcalf. I mean, it was a pretty favorable fantasy trade for most of the big parties involved, because you go to Dallas where there's no wide receiver too. So you're not really kiboshing anybody's target volume, but the whole offense is probably going to be much safer, much more efficient. It's great news for Dak. He came up in our ranks. I don't think there's anything that would bring CeeDee down personally. I think for Pickens, it's a beautiful landing spot. He's not going to have an alpha target share, but I don't know if he was that type of player anyways. He gets the downfield stuff, severely lacking wide receiver too. And then Metcalf in an offense where you're afraid about the throw rate and whatnot. Now, those concerns are dampened a little bit by just being like the main guy there. So we were pretty positively moved most of the key guys in that trade.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's like, are you guys, do you think, are we still holding out hope for a quarterback to land in Pittsburgh, or are we just working under the assumption it's Mason Rudolph at this point?
We're holding out a little bit of hope, but not, a ton of hope.
Yeah.
But I think, I just think Metcalf's talented enough. And I don't know, I know we rip on Arthur Smith and he's super annoying for a fantasy perspective. And I don't think he's that great, but I don't know if he's the absolute worst either. Like, it seems like he's able to eke out at least a little bit in these offenses more than we expect. So yeah, at least that's how I felt about Pittsburgh last year.
All right. We are about to pick at 1-8. We'll see what happens here at 1-7. Amon-Ra, Nico, Neighbors all here. Pat and I just did an Amon-Ra team. Not that we can't do that either. But you got any favorites in this range?
I think I'd go Genty here. I know we're a little bit behind ADP, but I think I'd just play the ADP. And I'm guessing the other two running backs we like at the turn will be gone. And just take a wide receiver coming back. What are you usually doing out of 8?
I think in that spot, I'm probably taking Neighbors, but Ben just kind of mixing up Neighbors and Genty there. But yeah, I have no problem with either of those picks. Like you said, you're more realistically looking at a wide receiver in this range. It's kind of like the Ladd, AJ Brown, Drake London pocket. So I don't mind going Genty there.
Yeah, it is a little bit tough because none of those, receivers that go right after are going to make it back pretty much ever. But we've come up on Genty a little bit. We're still behind ADP, but I don't know. It's not someone I would want zero exposure to, just given the draft capital, the volume workload, and just type of prospect he is.
Yep. All right, let's see here. The chat wants us to go high T, double running back start. I was actually talking about Henry with Pat before. Seems like you guys are a little ahead or close to ADP. So it's basically a running back or Drake London here, it looks like.
I could go either way. I think in general, I do like, Henry and Neighbors probably a little bit better than London and Genty, which is where we're ending up. But
Yeah.
I'd probably go London here unless I was like going out of my way to try and do something, extreme to make the RB start work.
Yeah. Let's do, we pulled the trigger on London here, give us a little bit more flexibility. That's basically the thing where it's like all of a sudden then if you get the nice running back faller in round 3, then it like becomes really hard to take them after a running back start.
I mean, I guess it couldn't happen because of, the way the board is, but let's just say we were at pick 7 and London went before us. Then I probably would have taken Henry. If we had taken Genty at 7 and London was gone, I think I would have taken Henry over what's the next wide receiver then, like T. Higgins?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You're then pulling up T. Higgins from there. I mean, by ADP, it's kind of a gap down to the Higgins, Garrett Wilson crew. In this, by ADP, like we should hit this and rank, kind of hit this sweet spot of wide receivers here, or you can capture like a Chase Brown if he falls a little bit. All right. We have a question that is going to be a very popular question over the summer. It's a popular question always. Blizzy wants to know, he says, we know some guys will rise this week just for week 17 correlation. And he's asking, is that warranted or projection still king? I'll gently reframe the question and say, because I already know what you're going to say. Correlation is a tiebreaker, always. But how much is the correlation worth on its own? You're
talking bringbacks, obviously, because you're already same team correlation built in, regardless of the schedule. It depends where in the draft you are. I'm probably not reaching around at this point in the draft. Once we get into the double-digit rounds, I think you could reach around. We know the game stacking is pretty important for weeks 15, 16, and 17. Ideally, you can work in some other correlations where you're not stretching too much, but there's so much uncertainty. I mean, we talk about with the projections, we move things just a little bit. A guy could change around. So to move him around on week 17 correlation, I think is absolutely fine. Once you start getting to rounds 10 plus, probably more like half a round before that. And you want to scale it a little bit differently based on how early you are.
All right. We can follow up on this, but we're on the clock here by rank. Evans, Kyren, Tet, Adams. By ADP, Kyren, Adams, Allen, Evans. What do you like?
I like Evans a little bit here. Plus, we can talk ourselves into a division game to potentially get this playoff correlation.
There we go. Yeah, I mean the framework that I've always worked with of how I think about correlation is every subsequent round I increase my radar or desire for wanting to correlate. At the top, I'm barely thinking about it. Rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Start thinking about a little more in the mid rounds. Is there a quarterback to pair here? Is there a teammate pairing? And then when I'm getting to the double digit rounds, when the projections are super fragile, that's when I'm really wanting to lean into that correlation. So I don't know. That might be a helpful framework for you if you just think like, don't think about it a ton at the top and start to think about it progressively as the draft increases.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And as far as our rankings go, I'll cover this after. Oh, we got a chance to go 2 rookies in the first 4 rounds here. We got.
You want to prove the haters wrong with a Travis Hunter share at 4 or 5? Wow,
this youthful start.
Do you want to give us a? Hang on, I'm gonna get you full screen for a soundbite. I'm thinking you say something like, "Give me rookies or give me death." Here, hang on. Let me get this switched here. All right.
Let me channel. Give me rookies or give me death.
Yes.
Travis Hunter. I'm surprised how many rookie drafts I've done where, people are still a little bit scared about the positional stuff, but I think they pretty clearly drafted him to play primarily offense. The consensus on him is if he was only a wide receiver, he would be the clear first wide receiver taken in the NFL draft. So pretty special player. Seems like a really dedicated guy too. And I am a little bit concerned about just being in on Jacksonville for like the third straight year, but it worked out with Brian Thomas last year, even though it didn't necessarily flow through to the rest of the offense.
Yeah. Yeah, and he, you'll see him go at the 3-4 turn. So sometimes you're going to be priced out. But we see Zay Flowers go here because my guy Mark was setting up that Lamar Zay stack. So we get like the slightest discount. And you kind of find him in this, tweener period between the falling DJ Moore, Devontae, and DK Metcalf are kind of anchored over here. So nice to get a share of him in the middle part of the board. And I'm with you. I think if we didn't have that uncertainty, we're still getting a slight discount on where he would have gone if there was none of the DB talk and whatnot. So yeah, it's fun.
One of the young guys we are behind ADP on early. I'm surprised Marvin Harrison Jr. You're not getting much of a discount from the really poor year one. I figured that'd be a guy I'd be in on year two, but the market right now is really not building in much of that year one failure. Have you been getting a lot of him?
I haven't. And one other dynamic I think contributing to it is a lot of people like doing Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison together. And Trey McBride's kind of on the backside of round 2. So it comes around and that drafter likes setting up that double. And so I think that's pulled his ADP up, where to your point, I think otherwise he'd be more in like the Evans, Adams, Worthy side. All right. By ADP, we got a couple of the quarterbacks, Hurts, Mixon, Burrow. By rank, Kenneth Walker, Mixon. You guys are pretty ahead on Walker. Mixon is here as well. Who do you like?
Yeah, I think I'd go Walker here. It's close to his ADP. I know we're jumping a little bit. We probably go Walker or Mixon here.
Yeah.
I do like Hurts too, but we just don't really have a stack set up there. Walker came up in our ranks a bit as we've lowered the pass rate on Seattle. I know if you look at last year, like their PROE and everything was really strong, but just kind of some of the moves and things that they're saying, reading between the lines, really think this is not a team that's going to throw nearly as much as they did last year. And I think they're pretty comfortable leaning heavily on Kenneth Walker. And we know from his rookie year, we took Achane last week. We talked about like, we know the efficiency is there, even though he didn't show up. We know Kenneth Walker has like the big play potential and everything, even though we didn't see as much of it last year. So I'm excited to get him here. I think Hurts would have been a fine pick, and you don't like absolutely have to stack them. But yeah,
I'm surprised the 5-hole drafter takes Devontae Smith at 44 and then grabs Jordan Addison ahead of ADP instead of taking Jalen Hurts as a pretty nice value stacked with Devontae. And so now where was the AJ Brown? And then the AJ Brown drafter is Mark, who had Lamar. So he didn't want to double up elite quarterback that early. And so then you get the big slide.
Some more stuff on the correlation. So when the schedule comes out, you're not going to see guys move in our rankings because we're assuming you're going to adjust rankings kind of mentally as you're drafting based on how you're constructing your team. But we're not going to say like, "Ooh, this guy's got good 17, correlation, so we're going to boost him in our rankings," because there's so many different combinations of the way it can play out. The other thing I was thinking of is like, you think of in terms of roster construction, like DFS, we're like, we just want to build smart lineups, right? I was thinking that with the correlation early last year a lot. There was a situation in round 2, and I'll wait till we pick to kind of talk more about that, just because I want to make sure I articulate it right and don't panic on the clock here.
Yeah, so we got 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. We're about to pick in the 6th round. Burrow is falling here. Doesn't really make sense for our team. By ADP, you're looking at Kamara, Godwin, potentially if you wanted to set up that double. By ranks, you guys have Jacoby up here. Jawan Jennings is in the mix too. What jumps out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I might set up the Tampa Bay double, see if we can do some work there. I don't love this range of the draft.
Yeah. I've generally been selecting like a Jawan or Debo in this range, but because we have Evans, you want to kick the can or kick the tires on a double here?
Yeah, let's kick the tires on a double. But I really don't like that range, so I'm like pushing more on correlation from our ranks than I normally would. But the point I was gonna make is like last year, I think there was like Devontae Adams and like who was like really difficult to stack because of the Las Vegas quarterback situation, and he was like tied with like 4 other receivers. I wonder if in a best ball mania, if you're doing 150, even though I like to diversify, if it makes sense to just say, okay, I know how much correlation matters in weeks 15 through 17, do I just not take any Davante Adams just because I know the lineups that I'm building are going to be easier and more flexible in terms of enabling that correlation. So you kind of don't have a stand against Adams as an individual, but in terms of how you construct a lineup like you would in DFS, he might not be the plus EV pick there. It might always be somebody else that is more stackable. I don't know. That was just something I was toying with last year, thinking through some of the builds.
There's another question here, and I've seen this debated a lot. So basically about Burrow, because you'll see him go at the 4-5 turn because his ADP is basically directly anchored to the Jamar Chase drafter and or the T. Higgins drafter. Sometimes it's a double. But then you'll see some drafters in a room like this where they will push him, and we see the Higgins drafter able to lock him up at 71. And I've seen some debates on Twitter, like if you knew you were only going to be able to push it 1 out every 5 times or successfully push it, how many times would you push it versus how many times would you just lock it up at the 4-5 turn? Do you have thoughts on that? Obviously, like how you value Burrow in a vacuum is going to impact that.
Yeah, I was going to say, we have him a bit overvalued with just not offering much with his legs, that I'd almost always be trying to push it because we have him about a round behind ADP in terms of where we have him ranked. So I think I'd push it and try and get greedy there, given our ranking on Burrow. Now, if you were someone who thought Burrow's ADP was like roughly correct, I'd probably like never be pushing, or rarely be pushing it, because it would be kind of a break-even value at that point at the 4-5 turn, plus you're getting the correlation. So maybe I'd only be pushing it like, I don't know, 50% of the time, 30 to 50% of the time, instead of like probably close to 100% of the time for me right now.
And I do think it's a spot where this is where you actually want to lean into reading your room as well. Like we have a bunch of kind of veteran drafters in here, more badges, more people willing to stay in their lane. That can be a little tiebreaker too of like, hey, do I want to push this or not? All right, we're on the clock. 2 running backs, 4 wide receivers, by ADP, Montgomery and Diggs, both running back and rank.
I'd go Montgomery here. I know we're getting a little bit running back heavy. We're going to have to, but I think it just, such a strong value there. I don't mind. It's probably going to be a hyper fragile running back team. We could possibly get out of here with only 4, depending on how things break with 3 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends. We're going to have to maybe push up some quarterbacks up the board from the ETR ranks. Those are the ones I'll deviate from ranks most often based on stacks. But I know we think Baker is pretty overvalued, but we got the double stack set up. So I'm probably going to almost throw the ranking out the window and value Baker just like where he is at ADP, which means if he came back to us, we would, I think, probably take him unless there was just another really good value.
And this is I think these are the examples that are best to think through correlation to where this team is now. We live in a world where Baker isn't 107 in the ETR ranks. We live in a world where he is valued where like Joe Burrow is, because he's putting up a top 3 quarterback season. Like if this team is the nuts, like that is the world we live in. And so the correlation adjusting dynamically like that. The question is like, can you push it? But Baker isn't often a guy you can push. And looking at these wide receivers, I don't feel the need to grab anyone over him.
Yeah, I also, though, other way I look at it, I would definitely take Baker here. I think I talked about this a lot last year, but there's kind of like 4 boxes you want to tick, right? Like ETR rank being one of them, ADP being one of them, positional need being one of them, correlation being one of them. The ETR rank box is not checked there. The other 3 boxes are all checked. He was the second best player available by ADP. It's a double stack. We don't have a quarterback yet. So it's awesome if you can check all 4 boxes, but more times than not, it's just impossible to check all 4 boxes with every pick. So we pretty cleanly checked 3 out of 4 boxes there. I'm not going to, quibble over the fact that in a vacuum, we don't think he is deserving of that pick.
The other part that I think sometimes, obviously we're talking about like isolated hypotheticals to like tease it out. But the one thing that is always sometimes lost in the like pushing it conversation, even for when you have a double stack setup, is just because you don't get Burrow with that stack or we don't get Baker, it doesn't mean we're not going to stack the rest of our picks. We're still going to probably stack up 2 other quarterbacks, if not 3, with other players from their team. And then we still get the ancillary benefits of a correlated team bet with those guys. Yes, would we prefer to have Baker? But it's not like we're done correlating. It's not like, well, fuck, now this team has no correlation. So I always just think people think about it a little backwards. Like, yes, in your hierarchy of correlation preferences, is that up there? But it doesn't mean that you still can't build in more correlation.
Yeah, and that's why, there are situations where I'll push it if only like a couple of those boxes are checked, and then I'll get a little bit greedier knowing, I've got if Baker has a really good year and Godwin and Evans benefit from that, we can still win without Baker if it didn't work out. And that's, I think, to your point, like, I think sometimes people are very binary. I remember, I always give Davis crap, but I remember Davis saying something about, like, it was the one year with Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. He's like, if you have Kirk Cousins without Justin Jefferson, like, do you even have a chance of winning? And then, I think Jefferson had like a horrible week 17 and like Hawkinson and somebody else went off.
All right, we are about to pick here. Looking at rank, Shaheed, we could pull up here to get a 5th wide receiver, some more divisional stuff. Jalen Warren, by ADP, you're looking at like Bo Nix, Tyrone Tracy.
Where do we have the highest TE in our ranks?
Mark Andrews, Colston Loveland.
I think I'd go Andrews, I think, here.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we had I'll grab Andrews here for us. Grab Andrews as our tight end 1 here. So now we got the Baker double stack with Evans and Godwin. We got our 3 running backs, Genty, Kenneth Walker, Montgomery, other wide receivers, London and Travis Hunter, and then Mark Andrews at tight end.
Yeah, that was a close one. You do get more NFC South if we had gone with Shaheed. I guess I was getting a little greedy, hoping that maybe Shaheed comes back playing the ADP game between those 2 guys a little bit more, and us just not having a tight end yet.
Yes. Let's see. Yes, thank you. This is fine. We got about 700 people watching and only 200 likes. Please hit that like button and subscribe. We are here every Monday, kickoff at 10 a.m. Eastern. I do a solo draft. We have Pat Kerrane for a 2nd draft. Leone joins me for a 3rd. And then we have a rotating guest for our 4th draft today. That is going to be Neil Orfield, the oldest man to ever stream all 150 drafts. And then right after this, we're doing a special emergency lulls with some of Mike Leone's coworkers, Taylor Cabey and Adam Levitan. We're going to discuss this whole brouhaha about overlay tools, all of this stuff, real-time assistant. Levitan said, fuck Twitter to have this discussion. Let's do it like real men on the air. So that'll be right after this if you guys want to stick around for that. Look at this, Leone. Shaheed comes all the way back to us at ADP.
All right.
You want to grab him here?
Yeah, gamble pays off at ADP, position of need, highest ranked on the board, and divisional game with our Tampa Bay stack to increase the odds of having that be a playoff week 15 to 17 matchup.
Yep. Beautiful. All right. So we're up to 5 wide receivers here. London, Evans, Hunter, Godwin, Shaheed. Thinking through our quarterback stacks, obviously Penix with London. Is Trevor Lawrence is still here with Hunter. The crowd wanted me to do a 18th round Tyler Shough earlier, so we could play that hit for the people. Do you guys have Shough as draftable now?
Yeah, we have him as draftable. I think the odds of him playing significantly this year are pretty strong, just given the lack of competition there. And I mean, even he doesn't seem like he has much fantasy upside, so I'm not pushing him like up past round 17 or 18. But to get a rookie quarterback with some uncertainty, new coach, they do have like some efficient wide receivers. It was Shaheed who we took, and Olave. I don't know. I mean, there's enough there that it could go right, or just on any given week, a guy can throw for 3 touchdowns and 200 yards, and that could be extremely valuable, especially if you set up the correlation. So I think he's pretty draftable.
I do too. And I haven't gotten there enough, but like one thing right now, One, there's been kind of a void of draftable quarterbacks like after the Geno Smith, Sam Darnold range where you actually have job security concerns. And now you get someone like Tyler Shough where it looks more or less secure. And then on top of that, there's such speculative picks at running back and wide receiver in those late rounds now that if you move those picks up positionally and then you save some of those late picks for the tight ends and the quarterbacks so you don't have job security concerns, I think those teams tend to look pretty nice if you kind of have the foresight to reverse engineer them that way.
Yeah, and we're set up to not have to take too many late running back dart throws. Depending on when we get our 4th, we might stop at 4 or just go to 5. It seems unlikely we'd go to more than 5 given our capital investment there.
Yep, 1351, about to pick at 128. We have some of the tight ends kicking around on the board here. Njoku, Loveland, Warren, Kincaid, all still available. We also have some of our quarterback stacks to consider. Lawrence and Penix. I guess Penix's ADP is a little bit later. Hollywood goes.
Yeah, I was thinking too, like Christian Kirk on the board gives us, potential Houston, Jacksonville, and then you've also got Stroud and Lawrence still there. I do like these tight ends, but I think we saw this last week, Peter, like depending, there's a chance one of them comes back, right?
And the wide receivers just got wiped, so we're probably looking at a quarterback, tight end, or running. We could do Travis Etienne if you want to try to set up a bigger Jacks thing for the next pick.
Shoot. I was kind of thinking maybe just I think I don't know. What do you think? Etienne or Lawrence? Should we?
I think we can do Etienne first.
Okay. And then we can go Lawrence if he comes back. If he doesn't, we could probably go our second tight end.
Yeah.
And then hopefully push Penix around.
Yes. Yeah, and that was the thing I was thinking of, like, because we still have a couple outs at quarterback, we could kind of push it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But we're going to probably lose Lawrence because the BTJ Tootin drafter is here, which is fine. Yeah, they double tap it. But again, that goes back to those points of like, I have no problem having a running back wide receiver pairing on an offense, and we're going to build out stacks at other spots.
I also feel a bit better too. Like we've got one of our quarterbacks in, like that's part of like, I like making that Baker pick at ADP is there's a little less pressure later.
So do you think we gamble pushing QB2 and grab a tight end? Or
I'd push QB2 and probably go. God, we keep taking Njoku. I'd love to take Kincaid at some point, who I really like, but probably go Njoku here.
Yeah,
because he's highest by rank and ADP.
Fall. We don't have anything else with Buffalo. Pat wouldn't let me draft Dalton Kincaid on a Josh Allen team, so it's nice to know I'll get some Dalton Kincaid exposure with you at some point this summer.
They still, their offense is frustrating for fantasy. They're going to run more than we want them to. They're going to switch personnel more than we want them to. So I see where Kincaid's upside's a little bit capped, where he doesn't have like that traditional like play action tight end role, but he's also not running a ton of routes, like all the routes. End of the day, though, I do think he was pretty banged up last year and just willing to kind of buy into that a little bit with the team not adding too much.
Yep. All right, let's recap the team here through 12 rounds. We got our quarterback, Baker Mayfield, looking good at running back with Genty, Kenneth Walker, David Montgomery, and ETN. Got our 5 wide receivers, Drake London, Evans, Hunter, Godwin, and Shaheed. Got our 2 tight ends here, Mark Andrews and David Njoku. So yeah, we're in good shape if we can lock up a quarterback. We did lose Penix, I'm noticing here.
Yeah, he went before we.
Oh yeah, picked. I didn't even notice that. Okay. Yeah. Michael Penix unstacked to the Josh Allen drafter. Okay. But I'm told the games are dead.
This is going to be a little bit tricky for sure. But I think we can do it. We might be looking at, well, we talked about, is it Shough or Shug, or how do I?
Shug is how I've been saying it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to join you on the Shug train. We've got him as a backup. I do like Anthony Richardson quite a bit late in these situations as a third QB. Like just significant upside if he can win the starting job and hold it for the year. So I don't think we need to panic. The QB2 spots can be a little bit weird because I don't think we really have a clear stack for, one of the QBs coming up.
Well, one, I would say I don't mind the Genty Geno
Yeah.
pairing, even though it's not like super clean. I still think there's some juice there.
Yep, that's a good point. We've seen the positive correlation over the course of the season with quarterback, running back. You also get some, if the offense is really good, you get some yo-yo impact in the playoff weeks too that other teams might not have. And just he can catch a touchdown. He's going to be on the field.
All right, we do get by ADP, you could do the triple stack with McMillan. He's past ADP and rank. By other rank, you still have like Dobbs, Quentin Johnston in this range.
I'd be McMillan here to get the triple stack. It's also shaping up as a team where we're going to be able to take an extra receiver, I think. So it's a little bit easier to swallow like 3 wide receivers on the same team. When, if you're on like a 6 to 7 wide receiver build, that can be a little bit tougher to make it through the season on.
Yeah, and then we also know, the teams behind us, there's a Lamar Goff team, there's the Stroud Lawrence team, there's a Hurts May team. So basically all the teams other than and the Allen Penix team. So we're probably going to get a quarterback to come back here to 161. You still have Ward, Geno, Bryce Young, and Tua all on the board. Here you go.
The late stack with Tua.
Michael says Leone has been on the clock for 6+ hours in my dynasty league. Guess this is why.
That pick might not be being made. Thanks.
How many dynasty leagues are you in?
What league am I on? I don't know. Like eight-ish dynasty leagues, but I split a lot of them.
Yeah. Apparently I'm missing out a lot on a big group me conversation, an app I refuse to download for our dynasty league, Leone.
Missing out is one way to put it. Living your best life is another way to put it.
We were dying on ship chasing on Thursday. We were doing the dynasty show with Danny Kelly and JJ, and Davis was describing how he massively overpaid for Genty in one league and then sold him for peanuts to you in the other. And I was like, how do you feel about Genty? Because this does not make sense. All right, let's think through which quarterback we want to do here. I think we definitely should select a quarterback. All of them are here. You have pretty big ADP value, or not big, but Tua, Cam, Bryce Young, or Geno would probably be all in play.
I feel like with the lack of correlation on the guys here, I know you mentioned Geno, Genty. I think I'd just go Cam Ward with some rushing upside. And we also have some dart throws late on Tennessee. We looked at that last week with Chig, with one of the rookies there, with Lockett.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's not a bad one to backstack there with just kind of all the ambiguity at wide receiver and pass catcher beyond Ridley.
Miami is a really interesting situation this year. It feels so fragile, it could totally blow up. But if they can get it together and everyone stays healthy, I think there's pretty significant upside in the Tua stacks this year where Tua is going.
Yeah. So our team here, we're in good shape positionally. Like you said, we're pretty balanced as far as not needing to catch up at any one position. 2, 4, 6, 2. Obviously, we are massively exposed to the Bucs with a Baker triple. We need that to cook, so we can build out the wide receiver room a little bit beyond that. But tight end solid, running back solid, in good shape here.
Yeah, these are fun builds where you kind of organically end up pretty balanced. We're a little heavy on running back, but it hasn't killed. Sometimes that totally kills you at one position or the other, but that hasn't been the case. That gives us flexibility at QB, wide receiver, tight end to kind of go best player available and or correlation.
Yep. Did your cat just...
Yep. Knock something over. Classic.
Incredible. Classic. Let's see here. Here's always a fun question with the overstacking and stuff. Where's your tipping point? And I bring that up because would you take Cade Otton on this team?
I would take Cade on this team. We're super invested in Tampa Bay. I think you can yo-yo the pass catchers in the playoff weeks. I actually think that's kind of an interesting way to build for the playoff weeks. As long as it doesn't leave you uber thin at a position, like we talked about, if you go 3 Tampa Bay receivers with 6 or 7 total, that's tough. But we're taking 8 to 9. We're taking 3 tight ends. Yeah, I'd be totally fine taking Otton here. Then you play Baker to just really pay off his tag, and you're going to get, as long as it's not Ibuka, we're going to get rewarded.
Yeah, and then the other, this is, maybe in some builds you're behind at another position, and it's like taking that third tight end in a tighter end room where you're already kind of strong doesn't make sense. But looking at the board here, I don't see any other like had to have things here.
No, I know you're dismissing Adam Thielen as a had to have guy.
Well, if we would have taken Bryce Young, then we could have.
No, I'm on board with the Cade Otton pick here.
So forget your triple. How about a quadruple stack here? So if we are doing Tyler Shough as our 18th round pick, that leaves 2 more picks. Definitely 1 wide receiver more. And then would you go to a 5th running back, or do you think an 8th wide receiver in this build?
I think I'd go 8th wide receiver. I feel like the running backs we took we got them around ADP, and with Walker and Montgomery, at least by the ETR ranks, like we really like those guys even ahead of ADP. So I'm kind of factoring that into my draft capital spent, that, we got Kenneth Walker as a 5th round pick, and kind of view him as maybe more of like a 3-4 turn pick. Yeah. Got Montgomery as a 6th, 7th round pick, view him more as like a 5th, 6th round pick. So factoring that in, I feel good playing with 4. And there's some good historical data on playing with 4 running backs, as long as you're not going overboard with it.
Yeah, and I look at, the capital we spent here. Genty, obviously, in round 1. Walker in round 5. You get a value on Montgomery, and then grab ETN. Definitely getting into that range where you feel good that you could rock just a 4 running back build there. Obviously, ETN is probably, can be a little fragile, but there's still probably enough there to be able to navigate that. So these next picks coming up, even after that running back talk, you do see Dowdle falling a good bit here. This could be a spot where we pull up Tyler Lockett if we wanted to grab him.
Yeah. I kind of like Lockett here. I know he's not high up on our ranks, but at this point, we're looking kind of positional need and correlation.
Yeah.
I think it's close enough that I'd go Lockett. It'd be nice to get maybe a younger wide receiver in this room, knowing that we're going to take 8. I'm not opposed to also getting the quarterback at 17 to lock that in.
Yep.
I would really like, I think having Shough is the pick, but I think A-Rich is fine as a backup with the rushing upside that he provides this late. So one of those 2 would be ideal.
Yep. Yeah, and I guess the other question is, I think Baker Ward, it's funny because I feel like Baker Ward is maybe almost like equally on the line as far as 2 QB, 3 QB as the 4 running back, 5 running back in this build. And you kind of just have to decide which one of those you're okay being fragile at.
I like the 3rd quarterback, I think, here. But it is, you're right, I might be too zoned in on the stopping at 4 running backs and assuming we're taking 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But especially if you get Shough to make the stacking work, having like 3 different quarterbacks stacked in the playoff weeks is is pretty plus EV.
Man, I still can't get over this Shimmeray DK here, Titans' highest drafted wide receiver. And this is, I was talking about this in my solo draft where it's like, as the summer progresses, we'll probably get a little more clarity on the Ayamanor, Shimmeray, like is one of these guys draftable, where it's probably just prudent to be taking Tyler Lockett for the most part right now with your late Tennessee stacks.
All right, so there's not really anyone else on New Orleans.
Saints, let's see here. It's pretty bleak.
We're not taking Brandon Cooks on this team. I don't think.
I legitimately didn't even remember that Brandon Cooks has made a return to the New Orleans Saints here. Actually, that's kind of nice. Like if this is his last year, he retires the New Orleans Saints after they drafted him. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
We
do have a pretty aggressive rank on Tutu Atwell, who
I was going to say
talked up. I think we're probably a little bit too high on him, but I do think he's a solid late round pick.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you look by ADP, the wide receivers are all wiped. If you were looking for, like you mentioned, like a rookie to get some upside, like maybe a Tesla with the David
Tesla's
Montgomery.
Probably the guy. Wicks goes. I mean, Wicks isn't a bad option this late either.
Do you want to take a wide receiver first or grab our
let's do wide receiver. Do you think someone's going to take Shough?
I don't think so.
I think I'd go Tesla and get a rookie wide receiver here. I think Detroit's a decent spot for it. Just super efficient offense with not a ton blocking the way, especially in terms of he can probably get there without, a full allotment of playing time. But there's not a ton blocking him. There's some Jameson Williams weird vibes as well right now.
It is like, it's the most like he has, one of the sketchiest, prospect profiles that you'd want as far as lack of production and stuff. But then every other factor, where they took him, the capital they gave up to get him, and then just kind of, obviously it's not as good of a bet as the Ricky Pearsall, but you kind of just shrug your shoulders and say shit happens. If he gets on the field for the Lions in that offense, it could be pretty good.
Yeah. And I think Amon-Ra had a pretty shaky profile. I mean, I'm not trying to compare the two, in that regard, but just, same organization, like they might be viewing this differently than we are, or have a specific plan for the player.
Let me give you another 2v2 that I kind of just noticed we could have done. We could have taken Torrey Horton here, and then because Darnold was still on the board, so you could have set up like that instead. But Shough with Shaheed is still important for this team.
Yeah, that is interesting. The Horton with the Darnold one is, I mean, who do you think's more favored to be starting week 17, Shough or Darnold?
Man, that is a great question, because I've been worried about Darnold.
The flip side is, if Darnold's starting week 17, he's definitely projecting for more points than Shough.
For sure.
And we had Kenneth Walker on the team.
We had Kenneth Walker.
So I think I probably would have done the Horton Darnold in hindsight. My mind was too locked in on Shough.
Well, we basically talked about Tyler Shough for this entire draft, so it felt like we had to take him.
How many rookies on this team?
Yes.
Give me rookies or give me death.
Look at that. The rare 3483 build. I bet there's not a ton of data on that build number exactly. Let me recap this team here, and we'll get your thoughts. Also, I've been, for these on-stream drafts, I've been doing these 30-second clocks. Obviously, Underdog has the 20-second clock, but for the stream, I like having a little extra time. But these drafts have been absolutely flying, even with the 30-second clock. Yeah. So kudos to all the May drafters. Here's the team: Baker Mayfield, Cam Ward, Tyler Shough, Ashton Genty, Kenneth Walker, David Montgomery, Travis Etienne. Wide receivers: Drake London, Mike Evans, Travis Hunter, Chris Godwin, Rashid Shaheed, Jalen McMillan, Tyler Lockett, Isaac Tesla, and then 3 tight ends: Mark Andrews, Njoku, Cade Otton. This is a fun build, Mike.
Yeah, I like these hyper fragile builds where it's not even 2 running backs out of the gate. It's 1 super early, 2 kind of like medium early, and then the 4th is kind of before a drop off in terms of playing time expectation and talent. So I think they're a ton of fun. I know I was pretty locked in on only going 4, and there maybe were some options to pivot to a 5th, but these organically to me, I think just seem to work out with these nice, really balanced teams overall. And you just are making a bet on your running backs hitting and taking a little bit of risk there in order to be super short up at the other positions. 3 quarterbacks stacked too, something I love to do in BBM in particular, given the format, the playoff structure, weeks 15 to 17. So no, it's a fun team. I like this team. I probably won't get a ton of Baker this year too, and probably not a ton of Godwin. It just kind of fell for us, just the way the ADPs and everything aligned.
Yep. Wow. See, this is what's funny, Mike. You know, all of a sudden Pat's off the screen. When Pat's on the screen, Steph works over at Leg Up. He gets an A-, and then Pat leaves, and now all of a sudden a C+ getting thrown around here. Man, they just don't understand our vision, our genius.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I think, you know, the one spot where it's like, if you would, obviously, I think the having a 5th running back as opposed to the 3rd tight end is probably where you would, but it's also like the range where we took Cade Otton, the running back bets had really dried up around there. You're into the Dobbins. I guess you could have said like a Rico. I think probably would have been the guy that was at the top of our ranks as that 5th guy.
Yeah, you could have done Rico.
Yeah.
But I feel like, when was our first tight end? When you start getting first tight end closer around 10,
yeah,
that's generally a 3 tight end build for me. It's position 2 that the injury rates on are just a little bit higher as well. It can be touchdown or bust on certain weeks. I don't mind being short up there, and it's not like you can't use them at flex. So I'm okay being a little heavier there. But that these drafts, they're fun, but they are somewhat tough to make that final decision of like, where do I cut that last spot? Is it 5th RB, 3rd quarterback? You know, even wide receiver. I kept thinking, given how good we were at running back, that we needed more wide receiver, but it's not like, I mean, we started off with London, Evans, Hunter, 3 in the first 4 rounds there.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously, I think, trickier to do a hyper fragile build like this in say May. Whereas I do think for some reason it's easier for people to, I think, envision drafting like they're right, maybe at other positions or with stacking. Whereas with running backs, it's taking a leap of basically saying David Montgomery continues to just be a touchdown monster in this offense, basically quid pro quo, like nothing like changes. Status quo, sorry. And then ETN, we're just saying like, hey, the Tootin stuff is a bit of a mirage. The rookie doesn't get much work. And like ETN is a bell cow back in an improved offense. Like then that pick looks like a smash relative to a guy we were taking in round 4, round 5 in previous years. So it's like you are hinging this pretty significantly on like 1 to 2 things with your RB3, RB4. But if those things happen, then you supercharged every other position.
Yeah, the other thing with taking the hyperfragile early, I think the running back bets later that we've hit on a few times these first few weeks, it's harder to know if you're taking complete zeros or not right now. You know, later on in the draft season, I'm probably going to have a set of targets in the late teens rounds that I absolutely love at running back, and I want to draft a good chunk of, and I'm less prone to go hyperfragile at that point in time. I also expect to see the ADPs on Walker and Montgomery rise a little bit. Would not be surprised by that if we see those ADPs earlier in a couple months, especially on Walker.
Yeah, that's one where it's funny, right? Because we're in the range right now where all of us, myself included, you know, kind of overthinking the Seattle offense. Like I'm worried about systemic Darnold meltdown risk, but the projections, when you guys really start to fine tune those, it's going to look like, holy shit, how much work is Kenneth Walker getting in this offense? Like the volume will probably be closer to the Kyren Williams ADP range, Breece Hall ADP range than it will be those other 6th round running backs. But I think the combination of people being spooked about Darnold's systemic risk and just Kenneth Walker, being a guy who's constantly banged up, seeing Zach Charbonnet look good in relief. But man, year over year, it's just like it's it's Kenneth Walker when he's healthy in this offense.
Yeah, and if you follow the coach speak stuff, they seem like they really like Walker, and I don't think it's just bluster.
Yeah. And I think they just have to tilt the identity of their offense this year. I mean, you go from, like you said, like some of their pass rate over expectation. I mean, weren't they leading the league for a stretch there with Geno, or at least they were top 5?
They had a combination where they were up there in pass rate over expectation, and they kept getting in game scripts where the expectation was also high. So they were just throwing a lot in general last year. And part of that was, admittedly, because they couldn't run the ball the way they wanted to. And sometimes that leads you to a higher PROE. Once you get, it's one thing to talk about it, and then you get into the game and you can't really run the ball, and you decide you need to throw a bit more on early downs. So there's some hope that run game is fixed a little bit. I know we're expecting to see more 2 tight end sets out of them this year, a little bit more of a power game. I think they even had a quote about, maybe it's not the 2 tight end sets, they had a quote about using the fullback more. I wish I had it up that I could find. But yeah, I think they're at least going to try to make the ground game much more of a thing this year. Whether or not they're going to be successful, we'll see.
Here's a question. People are always trying to think, like, are there ways to zig, when everyone's zagging? How do you take advantage of a wide receiver heavy landscape? Obviously, last year, there were lots of ways to win. You take Barkley, you take Derrick Henry, you take Josh Jacobs, you take Joe Mixon. But Frankie asks here, do you think an anchor wide receiver strategy is viable? And he's defining that as like 2 wide receivers in the first 3 rounds, and then you fill all the other positions, and then you're starting to hammer wide receiver, say, after pick 100, the Darnell Mooney range.
Yeah, I think that's maybe a little bit too thin with like having to start 3 wide receivers. There's also a little bit less backdoor stacking this year than in previous years that makes that not quite as attractive. So I think you still want a third somewhere in the first, 8 rounds, in addition to your 2 in the first 3 rounds before I would go there. I know the data last year, I haven't looked exactly what it is. It's going to be skewed from past years, but usually what you find is the people that do well with running back heavy early starts, like even if they took a Saquon or Henry, is like they still are good at wide receiver early too, right? Like it's not that they went all running back and no wide receiver. So I'd probably try and get a third in there before the double-digit rounds start.
And I think, to me, I agree. But, the thing that's it's easy, and I mean, I did it a ton last year, where you basically are pre-panicked about wide receiver avalanches, and that pushes you to constantly drafting the wide receivers in specific rounds and often passing on the running backs there. And you still have to walk that tightrope walk. But I do think that idea of, I'm going to take a running back in rounds 2, 3, and 5, and know a lot of the player pool probably isn't going to have a round 2, round 3, and round 5 running back on their team, because most people are grabbing at least, 2 wide receivers in that same range. And then just knowing but then I have to hammer the Khalil Shakur and the Ricky Pearsall and the Jaden Reed and these guys where there really is a cliff. And I do think having some conviction on some of those players after pick 100. There's exceptions every year. The Nico Collins breakout year, the Rashee Rice breakout year, those guys were going in the 120s, 130s. You can find league winners in that range, even in a pretty efficient ADP market. But I'd be less to thinking about it through extremists like anchor wide receiver, and more just like, let me grab a couple of players earlier, where a lot of people are reluctant to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's where sometimes chasing the values, as boring as it is fun, right? Like you get some really good value. So, not only are you taking maybe running backs in a range that other people aren't, but you're doing it because you're getting a really good value in that particular draft, and then you're making it work. So a lot of my extreme drafts that I get into, honestly, aren't like me heading into a draft trying to be extreme. It's like, oh, I'm just going to scoop this value, and then I've done enough of these, and you kind of know the capital you need to devote to each position that you can make it work through the rest of the draft. And that actually makes the draft super fun. In my opinion, you get really focused on what you need to do to make that team work. It can be fun to do the opposite. I know sometimes, Peter, you've got late round guys and pockets of the draft where you know there's value. So you might draft a little differently earlier just so that you can maximize those pockets later. So I think kind of trying to have go into a draft with like one of those strategies in mind, but not always do the exact same thing. Like sometimes maybe just bank the early value and make it work. And there might be other times of the year where you've got a few ADP guys at ADP that you just absolutely love late, and you need to set up the roster construction a certain way to maximize, the value of taking those guys a little earlier.
And I do think the other point of this conversation that has to be unique to the ADP landscape each year is kind of understanding the other positional pockets. And I think we have an extreme one this year with the quarterbacks, with how many are going between picks 100 and 130. And like one thing Pat and I were doing in our first draft, we took Josh Allen, and we were kind of debating, like, would we get another running back? We also had Breece. And it's like, once you then take that next running back, not only are you behind the 8 ball at wide receiver, but in the range where the quarterback value is going to be there, you also aren't necessarily pressed to take one because you already spent the capital on elite QB. So I think thinking through, like, if you do want to go heavy running back early, I probably don't want to have early quarterback on those teams. And again, I'm not saying never, but just knowing, like, I want to free up those picks in a dry wide receiver range to then select my quarterbacks, and knowing, like, how do I shift these pieces around? Because the worst thing is, like, I don't need quarterback, I don't need running backs, and I need wide receivers. And I'm looking at the ones available in 100 to 130 range, and I don't like anything.
Yeah, if you're going to, and that goes back to kind of like the initial question on like wide receiver, there's like a certain level of wide receiver commitment I feel like you need early, no matter what you do, right? It doesn't mean you have to be crazy wide receiver heavy early, but it does start to make it more difficult to combine, elite QB with elite tight end, hyper fragile running back with an elite quarterback, like you just mentioned. That becomes a little bit more difficult because you don't want to back yourself that much into a corner. So, it's still a fuel game out there, though, which I think keeps it a lot of fun for everybody.
And I really like it. I just did this for the Deposit Kingdom video, and I just did one scenario where I mapped out a draft and just like looking at, like, what are the pockets I like, and I like the 3 late quarterbacks. I did an elite tight end on it, but then I sketched out the entire draft within reason based on ADP. And then I went in the room, and obviously, I had curveballs thrown at me and I had to adapt, but it is really instructive of, like, what do those builds look like? I really think, like, if you wanted to save money but get practice building out, all right, what does my elite QB team look like? And go through and sketch it out just based on a realistic draft slot and ADP. What could you build? And you learn a lot from that exercise of, like, oh man, I get myself in a weird spot here if I go elite quarterback and then I want to grab these couple running back values. So I do think it's really, really valuable to almost like plot out what different structural teams look at, and then you'll know how to execute them, or like, hey, this is just too hard to realistically pull off.
Yeah, like you don't plot them out so that you go into a draft saying, okay, I'm going to do the elite quarterback build. You plot them out because it's like, oh, Josh Allen fell to the 4th round. Now I'm in an elite quarterback build. What did that look like? And what do I need to adjust now that I've gotten this value early and I've kind of organically wound up on this route to start? And then that's where, again, I like to draft that way too, because we talk about the picks being later in the draft capital not mattering quite as much. And in my mind, that's when I can be more flexible, where if I do end up light wide receiver and I need to pound like 5 wide receivers in a row, if I reach on ADP 5 rounds in a row to get those receivers, it doesn't matter as much if that's happening in the double-digit rounds, right? Like, same thing with the correlation. We say to reach around on correlation in the double-digit rounds. So I'd rather get my value early and then start reaching to make the positional stuff align when the draft capital just doesn't matter, quite as much.
I don't know if I saw a comment the other day on Twitter, and sorry, I don't know who said it, but I think they just said ADP seems more efficient this year. My gut instinct agrees with that. And also just seeing how drafts played out on opening day compared to previous years and how quickly mispriced players like snapped into a more appropriate price. Have you felt that, like, on the ranking side? Obviously you guys deviate from market still in some places, but what are your overall thoughts on, like, how ADP is sharpened or not?
The opening few days for sure was way sharper than last year. It's hard for me to say since then. I'm obviously grinding the rankings, but not being able to do a ton of drafts myself has made it a little bit harder. I felt like even last year it got pretty sharp quickly. So I don't know if it's way sharper at this point this year than it was this point last year, but it definitely was those first few days.
Yeah. And there's also, it's fun to have the juxtaposition of drafting off of the leg up ranks and then the ETR ranks back to back. But I think one thing that is just true and why there is such a disparity is like the exercise of projecting late round picks right now is really hard. And like the reason why a lot of sharp drafters want to tilt their drafts to mainly in August when we have peak information is then, it's easier to project and find targets in the late rounds once we start to get those data points. And so I think you're going to see a lot of deviation between whether it's philosophically on how you want to approach it or, trying to be really in the weeds like you guys are on like divvying up these market shares and these touch shares realistically. It's a very, I sympathize with it because it's a very hard thing to do in May.
Yeah, it's really difficult. We obviously, the base of everything I'm doing is the ETR ranking set when I go into a draft. But I think if people watch this stream, like they can see where I'm willing to deviate from those rankings and just kind of have an understanding of we're very intentional about our rankings, but at the same time, we understand that like shifting a little bit of volume can swing a guy 5 to 6 spots in the rankings. That can be the difference in terms of like being overweight or underweight. So I think once you have that mindset of like, okay, this is the base, but it's not like set in stone. I'm still going to adjust based on my draft room, the capital to positions and the correlation. It really starts to work out. But yeah, the end around picks, a lot of times for me, it's like, what archetype am I looking for? And then I'll try and I don't care necessarily where the player's ranked. It's like, I'll take the highest ranked player of the archetype that I want. If I need a young wide receiver, like we took Tesla, I'm going to take him ahead of maybe a vet that we have with more volume that's ranked higher. But there's some builds where you need that vet and you need kind of maybe that assured volume even late at wide receiver, and you might flip it.
Yeah. And I will say another thing, and not only because I do it, but I like drafting off of like different ranking sets. Like if you're looking to, get pushed into different areas, maybe see to get different types of builds, you can still always toggle that ADP toggle and see kind of what the market says. And I was even saying like next week, I think for my solo draft, I'm going to load Sean's rankings in because I don't get to draft with him and have fun seeing like where his big stands are. But I think if you're a smart drafter, like being able to like pick and pull like what you like or go and see where, maybe there's a blind spot. Maybe I need to go look at Tutu Atwell based on where ETR has him, stuff like that. I think it is fun to do that. And I like kind of doing that with daily drafts too in the season and just seeing like what are different builds I'm getting with different, ranking sets. All right, Leone, appreciate you as always. Let the people know what's going on at ETR this week.
Yeah, just kind of same old right now. We've got our rankings up for best ball for a variety of formats. We're constantly tweaking, updating those. We will all summer. We've got the ADP updating. I think we're going to have some content this week on the biggest market movers week over week. Now that ADP settled a little bit, and give some kind of context and insight to what the ETR thinks about, stuff like the Pickens trade to Dallas and just guys that are seeing their ADPs change a lot. If we're buying that, if we're not buying it, and why.
Awesome. Keep an eye out for that. Like I said, immediately following my draft with Neal here, we're going to roll right into a Lulz episode. That will be a separate stream YouTube link, but I have it set up to auto redirect. So if you guys want to hear more about ETR's new tool and why it has sparked so much outrage, we're going to discuss that with Adam and Taylor. All right, Leone, we'll catch you next week on Best Ball Breakfast.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
All right. Welcome the oldest man to ever stream all 150 best ball drafts. And as Disbanded said, we got to keep this moving because Neal has dinner at 3 p.m. at the Sizzler. You said you had a game of Mahjong with the old ladies down the street. You're going to watch some reruns of Golden Girls, turn on the humidifier, and be in bed by about 6:30.
These stereotypes are offensive to me personally. Not all of us boomers have an early bedtime. I am a big time night owl. My bedtime is like 3 a.m. So I'll probably eat lunch after this. I actually don't know if I will, because I upset my schedule and had a big egg and steak breakfast this morning. So maybe I won't even have lunch today. But no, I am not the typical boomer who goes to bed by 8 p.m.
All right. And that's the
The
thing
rest
I
is
was
true.
saying. I'm the actual, but I'm in bed by 9:30 these days. If it's 10 a.m. and it's partly because my toddler's going through a sleep regression and has been up at 5 a.m. So it is just survive or die for me. If I'm not in bed by 10, I'm going to be in rough shape. So yeah, take advantage of your late nights while you can. Neal, I'm going to really, and I'm only comfortable doing this to a seasoned streamer like yourself. I need to go to the bathroom because I've been streaming for 3 hours and drinking coffee. Do you want to vamp with the chat, your fans, all that good stuff? And I'll be back in a minute.
Yep. I'll sit here in silence. Have a fun pee.
All right.
All right. I wish I could click on the comments. That's the only regretful thing here. I'm used to being able to click. I just want to click on a handsome old and just keep that there. Jeremy's comment, a handsome old. I like that one. Can we get a sleeve check? There are no sleeves on this one. This is actually a fake flannel. This is it's called Buffalo Plaid is the design. The pattern is called Buffalo Plaid. I didn't want to have an actual flannel here in Minnesota in the summer. I think it's like 80 degrees outside right now. So this is not exactly flannel weather, sadly, for me. There are honestly more hardcore flannel wearers than myself who might wear flannels in this season. I can't do it. It's too hot here. Neal's flannel smells like Vicks. That's kind of funny. I can scroll up. Never mind. Yes, I am ready to draft a Vikings team. Agree with that. Was Pete doing this? This is incredible. Pete is like doing this from his phone or something. Does he have his computer with him in the bathroom? I'm very impressed. I've never been able to do this. Yeah, I will try to get Pete. I didn't realize that Pete has a producer. Okay, good to know that. I'll try to get
my hands are right here. No, it's my guy Mark. My guy Mark in the hopper here is able to put up some comments.
That's great.
Yeah. Are you getting bullish about the Vikings? I see the Vikings fans starting to get more and more excited by the day.
I am in my Liam era right now, where I'm just going to draft a million different Vikings teams. I'm very bullish about JJ McCarthy, obviously Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Mason more so for me than Aaron Jones. But I'm drafting a ton of I don't think I'm not super excited about Ty Felton or anything like that, but the like top half of the Vikings stack I love.
Did you see the team I drafted with Kerrane?
I saw that you drafted JJ McCarthy, which I was shocked because I do like I said, so I use a sidekick. I do a million double stack Vikings, and then at pick 100, it's like, take Drake May right now. Don't consider JJ McCarthy. So I was shocked that you got him to draft JJ McCarthy.
No, I had to gently say, Pat, I know you want to draft Drake May, but we've taken 3 Vikings. Maybe we should take JJ McCarthy. That was a fun build here. I hopped us in. We are, I have not been able to buy a draft pick at the top of the board today. So we're at 111. I feel like I've seen the question posed a couple times in the chat, and everyone always likes to talk about it. Where's your favorite spot to draft? I feel like I've been fairly agnostic. I like the variety, but is there a pocket of the draft that you like right now?
I think I'm mostly with you. I think I actually, so I watched your best possible draft, and it was funny because it was very similar to, like, I think I probably had those top 4 at least in multiple drafts where you went Genty and then Brock Bowers and then Rashee Rice and then Tet. Like those, I love that set. So I guess at the back of draft might be my favorite place to start. I of course go with Jordan Addison instead of Calvin Ridley, instead of the Viking stack, instead of the Cam Ward stack. But yeah, it was pretty similar to a lot of my starts. Yeah, but I don't know that I really have a favorite spot. I don't really love the top of the board. Probably if I can get a middle pick and get Justin Jefferson to fall would be my favorite, but might actually be the back end.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I love all those various kind of combos. You can get the really good wide receivers, CMC, Bowers are in the mix in there. There's kind of a lot of fun ways you can mix and match those pairings. And then there does seem to be a little bit of a talent fall off, like after the mid-second round. So some of the stuff you're doing at the 1-2 turn, or sorry, the 2-3 turn, it's kind of like, this seems fine, but I get more excited about the 1-2 turn picks now, the more we talk about it. People want to know when Flannelverse best ball content. Have you been doing streams?
I did one stream with Sacrilegious. I've been kind of lazy, I guess. I've just like, I was pretty burnt out after NFL season, and it's been just like, I've been pushing it back, trying to get in shape, trying to figure out exactly what I want to do. Cause last year it was just kind of doing a ton of streams and didn't give myself a lot of time to do other types of content. So I think it'll be like fewer streams. Okay, we got to make our pick.
Oh yeah.
I'd be happy with
Monrod
either of these at the top.
Let's see.
I'm kind of indifferent.
All right, let's see. We did we
You
mixed
did
up
Monrod last time.
Yeah, with Pat. Let's do Nico here.
So I want to be able to do more like pre-recorded content and more like game theory type content. So I will be doing best ball streams. I'll probably set up a couple weekly streams or something like that. But still figuring that out. And it'll be this week or next week is when I'm starting.
Beautiful. Let's see here. We'll make our pick. I'm gonna actually we're on the clock here. By ADP, Henry, Bowers, London, AJ Brown. You got a favorite here?
Bowers.
Boom. Bowers and Nico. Let's do it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get rid of the ranks. We drafted off a leg up. Let's just raw dog it here.
This is gonna be so weird. So every draft that I do, I use ETR's ranks, and then I adjust them based on just move up JJ McCarthy 40 spots, obviously. No, but I make a few changes. That's
your secret sauce.
Yeah. I make a handful of changes, and then I use the sidekick, so you can kind of see both the ranks at the same time. So raw dogging it will be different.
Yeah, let's do it. I generally I want to say like midsummer is when I start mostly raw dogging it. The ADP gets really sharp. Like you kind of, early on here, still kind of getting our feet wet. And there are players that are moving up boards. And sometimes it's nice to have an anchored reminder to like, hey, this guy is, mispriced like that. So I think, probably in about a few weeks when I'm drafting on my own, I'll flip that switch. But early on, I do like having the guide of people who are pouring hours and hours and hours into the exercise of getting these ranks right.
Yeah, it's very helpful. Yeah, and last year I used Fantasy Points Rank Sum, which is it's fun and different in that like I don't think they have any kind of ADP anchoring. So like I know both ETR and Leg Up you have some ADP anchoring. So then just using like these are sharp guys who are making their own ranks, and it's just like this is what we think, and we don't factor in what the field thinks is all is it's kind of fun.
For sure. And I think the beauty of being able to toggle back and forth between ADP and rankings can really inform decisions. And then you get that warm, fuzzy feeling when the best available player by rank and ADP is the same. And you're like, all right, I don't even have to think too hard about this. But yeah, and I was just saying right before too, with Leone, like I'm going to throw Sean's ranks in. I would like to check out those ranks too. I just like, it's like, if you're a good drafter, and your strength is like understanding structure, positional runs, value pockets, then, what is the thing we're going to be worst at collectively? It is going to be individual player takes. That's where we all miss a ton. And if you also think about rankings having almost like a singular vision, that's one thing I think Sean does so well. It's like last year he had a pretty low rating on Adams, but it was tied to a really high rating on Bowers because that was part of the thesis of like Bowers is going to succeed. And so if you do drafts with like a different worldview or whatever, but it's a cohesive worldview, then you can still build well-structured teams within these other kind of like, I don't know, pockets of reality. And I think that's a cool way to approach things.
Yeah, for sure. I like that.
Let's see here. So 311, we start Nico, Brock. We are looking at Allen, Evans, Lamar, Breece Hall, Xavier Worthy, Tet. What do you want to do here, depending on our guy in the 10 hole?
So Rashi went.
Yeah,
I would not be opposed to any of the Tet. Or I was going to say Travis Hunter. I would say Tet here probably.
Yeah, I am a Tet enjoyer. I did Evans over Tet with Leone. That's another one of those like small discrepancies between the leg up and the ETR. Evans or Tet there. I like both of them. So we get Tet here. Then we come back at 4-2. And the question is, do you want to take the elite quarterback plunge with one of Allen or Jackson, grab a running back, or keep Hammer and wide receiver?
I'd say let's go Omarion Hampton would be my pick.
Ooh, okay.
How do you feel about that?
I am not opposed. A little, ignore the ADP. Not only were we raw dogging ADP, Neal's like, I'm even going to raw dog this further and just go get my guy, Omarion Hampton.
I think I'm still a pretty big zero RB guy this year, but I think it's going to be a lot more I don't know. I actually don't know the difference between hero RB and anchor RB, but I think I'm going to be doing a lot of taking one RB pretty early this year. Just because like, I feel like I don't think zero RB was a bad idea last year. Obviously it didn't work out at all for us, but I think it was still like the sharp way to draft. And I think it's even sharper this year because like everybody agrees, this is a very strong running back class, really deep running back class, and not that great of a wide receiver class. I think this is a perfect year to be doing zero RB and or hero / anchor RB. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think even just if you are respecting ADP in round one, like you can see here, we still have almost an equal amount of running backs and wide receivers going in round 1 and 2 over the course of both those rounds. So you're often going to hit a spot in rounds 1 through 3 where the best available player is a running back, to where you almost have to thumb your nose at it and say, no, I'm gonna jump the wide receiver for whatever reason. So. And I think that's a lesson a lot of us learned last year where we were skipping Barkley, we were skipping Henry. And it's like, you don't have to have 25% of them, but maybe just take them when they're at ADP or a slight value, you know?
I was just looking through some of my streams from last year. And I totally forgot that there was a stream early on that I did with John Daigle where we took Saquon Barkley and we got absolutely lambasted by chat. Like people were so mad at us for taking Saquon Barkley in the second round, which I guess was probably Daigle was probably on him because I wasn't really in on Saquon Barkley. I ended up with 3% Saquon Barkley. Yeah, it was pretty funny how like everybody agreed this was just and anybody who was like watching content, doing content was just like, oh, you can't really take Saquon Barkley here, and then he just smashed.
Yeah, you know what's so funny too? Like thinking back, one of the Barkley teams I had was actually Levitan with me on stream last year. We got a share, and the team still didn't advance. It didn't have enough wide receiver firepower. And it was like, yes, having Barkley was a cheat code. It was a cheat code, but it wasn't the skeleton key. It didn't give you like a direct path to advancing. And I think that kind of speaks to how important it is to still build smartly and get enough firepower, even when you do take those running back detours. Because if you were too aggressive with it, it doesn't matter how many running back points you have. If you're getting like 6s from your wide receiver position, like you're not going to be able to compete, especially in the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Super looking forward to your upcoming stream, by the way, the Lowell stream with the EPR guys. That should be interesting. I don't totally understand the uproar right now, because maybe I just haven't looked close enough at ETR's tool, but I feel like it's very similar to the Sidekick, which has existed for a couple of years now. Chat, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Pete. I don't know if you have a different opinion on that, if it takes it to another level, but
it's like probably the 4th or 5th version of this to market.
Draft Caddy was,
Oh yeah. I mean, Draft Caddy was, Brian had that, over 2 years ago. And yeah, so hang on, let's make these picks. I definitely have some thoughts to flesh out too. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. Like literally there's a guy in my mentions, because I just promoted the episode, and he's like really mad that I called it an overlay tool instead of a solver. Solver is literally the brand of the company. It's an LLC called the Solver. The product itself is not the Solver. That's what they called their DFS product. It's just the company who launched it. So like even little things, like people are so ready to be outrageously mad, not even like understanding like specific things. But we'll get into it. Jalen Hurts falls to 5'11". Chuba, Jalen Waddle. We got some running backs.
Chuba, we got correlation. We do have the Chuba correlation.
True.
It would be between Chuba and Hurts for me, probably. As I said, I like hero and zero RB. I'm thinking second running back. I don't usually take Hurts here if I don't have one of his receivers. Devontae's already gone, right?
He is.
So it'd probably be Hubbard for me.
All right, let's do Hubbard, and then if Hurts does come back, we can do that. And then I like Hubbard at this price. I think there does come a point, like if we get Hurts at 6'2", I think we do it. We can take Goddard, you can take Shipley. Like the way Hurts scored last year, like his ceiling games were actually negatively correlated with like the Barkley ceiling games too, where it's like you can play him stacked. Anyways, he goes, so it doesn't matter.
Let's get your guy Jawan Jennings, I'd say, or you can.
Yeah, no. I want the Neal experience here, Jawan.
Yeah, he was in your perfect draft. I think I'm with you there. I sort of regret not taking Hurts there, just because like I don't do it that often, the unstacked Hurts, but when he falls here was probably a good opportunity to get one of that type of stacks. You can always add on Dallas Goedert late. Do they have any other back stacks? I can't even think of any.
No,
Well, Shipley,
I
I
mean,
guess, if you consider that.
I do like Shipley. Yeah, you see Goddard, Shipley. But it's like you can't select Jahan Dotson, you can't select AJ
Yeah.
Dillon, you can't select Grant Calcaterra. Like it's
Johnny
it's
Wilson.
bleak.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they still. It is kind of surprising that they didn't invest in like a better wide receiver 3 option. I mean, you want to talk about a team that's kind of vulnerable to an injury at wide receiver. You get thin really fast in that room.
I just joined a dynasty league that is commissioned by Mike Leone with a bunch of our friends, which is fun for me. It's my first dynasty league and also first industry league. But I really considered taking Johnny Wilson with my 6th round pick because the rookies, like all the good rookies, were dried up. There's like nobody on the waiver wire, and it's like 30 players deep per team. I seriously considered it, but I didn't take it. I don't know if that was. He seems kind of interesting to me though.
Yes. Yeah. I'm fairly interested in him. Joey says our wide receiver room is going to be hurting. Yeah. It kind of depends on what falls, to 83, 86. I always kind of determine sometimes you'll get the faller here and you're like, man, I got to 5 wide receivers and got the 2 running backs and Brock. Sometimes it doesn't break that way. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But again, this kind of goes back to what I was just talking about with Leone. And a lot of times you're not going to see builds like this because people don't want to only have, say, 2 wide receivers through 5 rounds or whatever. So I'm pretty confident we can make it work here though.
It is funny that I said I'm going to be mostly 0 RB and hero RB, and then we're just doing the exact opposite. And on my suggestions, we're taking non-wide receivers. But I think Juwan Jennings can be an alpha, like you said in your perfect draft. Nico Collins I think he's going to be great. Zach suggested he could end up as a wide receiver 1 this year. So I think we could be okay if things fall right for us.
For sure. Yep. And like the other thing to think through and, is our quarterback stuff. Stroud falls in that window. Both Bryce Young and Geno are cheap with Brock and Tet. Purdy, could fall in a window if we push him to like 107. So we're pretty well set up here at, backdoor quarterback stack. So I think we're in good shape here. And the other thing about this, it's like, there's also like a bit of a running back cliff too, like, after this range here. So it's almost equally as important to kind of stay balanced there a good bit.
And then hammer the rookie running backs late has been kind of my approach.
Yes.
I don't think you did you finish your thought on the solver tools as our pick is coming up again?
Yeah, we'll make these 2. And,
yep.
It's also one of those things too, where it's like, no matter what I say to people will say like, oh, you're biased or whatever. Yeah. But I do think there's like a lot of cognitive dissonance too, like with how people talk about it, kind of not understanding like what they actually want. Okay. A potential double stack here. Ayuk falls. I also think Shakir makes a ton of sense. This is actually the like wide receiver window I was hoping to capture at the end.
I'd say Ayuk for the double stack would be the way I would go.
Me too.
And then we could get our first quarterback here with Baker.
With who?
Oh,
Baker,
sorry, not Baker. No, sorry. Wait till the next round. We can take Brock Purdy. That was yes. That was a senior moment there.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I say we push Brock because this would be pretty ahead of ADP.
Here's where I take Hawkinson every time to set up the JJ stack, but that's just me. We might want to get a wide receiver though.
I would recommend Mooney or Igbuka if you have, or Downs. I like Downs too.
I'd probably say Mooney.
Yeah, I have not done a ton of Mooney. Let's do that. He gives us another quarterback stack as well. So here's our team. No quarterbacks. We got Omarion Hampton and Chuba at running back. We got Nico, Tet, Juwan Jennings, Ayuk, Mooney at wide receiver, and then Brock at tight end. So I think we emerged from that run decently.
Yeah. I'm good about it.
Yeah. I think the other thing, I think what's hard is with a lot of people when they're mad and they're angry, it's like, some people are mad just because their edge is drying up. Some people are mad that they feel like there isn't a clear statement from Underdog on what is and what isn't allowed. And it is interesting, like you said, that, this is like the 4th or 5th one to market. And yet this has sparked the most outrage because ETR is such a monolith in the community. I think people see it as a tipping point. It's like, oh, well, ETR has such a huge base. Therefore, now so many more people will be using this tool, because there was reactions when Brick came out. There were some reactions when Leg Up, but nothing like this is like a disproportionate amount of people speaking out compared to when the first ones did.
It's been pretty nuts. Yeah. And so I'm like, obviously as a best ball player, my first instinct when I first heard about the sidekick was, I don't love this. Like, I don't love that people are going to get better at best ball because of these tools. But then you also have to remind myself, like, okay, so I played DFS and I got way better when I started using the Osmo tools. Like it was like helped me quite a bit. So I can't really be that mad about new tools coming out. And there were always people, Ricky D was always upset with the new tools coming out. There are always a lot of people who were very anti the sims, they were anti public projections, all of that stuff. So there's always going to be those people. But this is like way lower level than DFS, trying to project an entire season. I think I saw Crutches making this argument on Twitter. I think it's a good one. Like, it's just, you can't really help that much with best ball. I guess if you have like no concept of how best ball works, it can help you quite a bit with the construction. But like, I don't really think that many of those people are going to be using tools anyway. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that is the difference between ETR and the sidekick, is that ETR will bring in a lot more of those casual players to best ball specifically because they're like, oh, we got this cheap tool that can help me build a great team. But I suspect it's not gonna, like, it's gonna make people better drafters, but you can't really predict, or it's a lot harder to project out a full season than just a single slate.
For sure. And like the equivalent, people talk about DFS dead. Like, imagine me hand building a lineup versus a lineup that Shady Advice's proprietary sim or whatever spits out. Like, I am such a losing fish. And then compare one lineup that I hand draft, or a best ball team that I hand draft first, whoever you want to say is the best ball drafter in the world, and talk about where the gap in skill. I'll put what am I that I like against any individual one person, but in the DFS one, like, it is, you are losing. Like not even close. They're completely different games in that regard. Okay. Do you want to take Brock here at ADP?
I would
Lock
take
that
Purdy.
up?
Yeah, I'd say so.
If there was like a huge value or a guy we loved, you could maybe talk about pushing it, but I just don't see anything we have to have.
Yeah, I don't either.
So now we get Brock with Ayuk and Jennings, and we're pretty balanced positionally. Brock Bowers, we got double Brock here, 5 wide receivers, 2 running backs in that double stack. It looks like we're potentially looking at a running back in this range, unless you got something creative here.
Yeah, I would say running back here. I kind of like Tyrone Tracy. I don't know. I like, he wasn't amazing last year, but also it was a really rough offense. So I think if the offense improves a little bit, he could be pretty good. I'm not that nervous about Cam Scatabo. Okay,
let's do it. Yeah, he's been a guy I've been nervous about, but we get him past ADP here. We'll take a stab. I mean, my worry on him has just been the things Cam Scatabo does well are the things that generate fantasy points as far as like the short yardage stuff. But I think the counterpoint is you say, hey, he still didn't get the draft capital that would indicate he's in line for an immediate big role. This is going to be Tracy's backfield. I'm trying to steel man my own case and say, hey, Tracy's the one on the field. The offense has improved slightly with Russ behind center, and Scatabo just doesn't have it and is more in a complementary role and never takes over. I think that's the way this hits.
I'm probably biased based on, I don't really know much about Cam Scatabo, except for I've seen like 2 clips where I didn't think he looked like that amazing. And everybody says he's a lot better, says he's pretty good. So I probably need to watch some tape on Cam Scatabo, and maybe I will become Scatabo Bill. But I don't know. I think Tracy was like, I thought that his numbers would be better when I look back at them. I was kind of disappointed to see he was not as good as I thought he was. But he was a wide receiver. Like, I still think he could have the pass catching. Tyrone Tracy could have the pass catching coming a little bit more this year. I don't know. I think he's still probably going to get the majority of the early work. We'll see. It could be like a thunder lightning situation.
And the other, honestly, like the scenario none of us want to hear is like, this offense could be really bad again. Russ sucks, and there just isn't a ton of high value touches for either of these guys. Like, almost you get a worse version of the Steelers offense for last year, where Najee is essentially the Tyrone Tracy, and like Scatabo is kind of like the Jalen Warren. And it's like, you got some usable weeks, but the offense just wasn't good enough to where you were just so excited to have those guys in your lineup. Like, I can see that playing out as well.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. It could be just a big disappointment all around, but I think at 110, Tyrone Tracy is a pretty good bet.
And it is like the inconvenient truth is also like Devin Singletary still is in this backfield. As someone who has just long been a player that coaches love, that they trust, who has popped up in a lot of places where we thought, they drafted the rookies in Buffalo. Surely Devin Singletary is dead now. And it's like, no. So that's the other thing. Like if you start to introduce a third guy getting touches in this backfield, which again, I don't think is likely based on where they drafted Cam and stuff, but there's enough fragility where Tyrone Tracy was drafted, Scatabo, like these aren't super high investments in a way that would, signal total commitment from the team.
Yeah. And the other point, so we didn't finish the conversation about the tools, is I sort of think that Underdog has stated that the tool just can't make the pick for you, and otherwise it's basically all good. Is kind of is my understanding of the tools.
Yeah. Here, so this pick, I think we should make a non-quarterback pick first because the drafter behind us has two. We also have like Stroud, we have Penix, we have Bryce Young, all as stack options. So what do you think about making maybe a running back selection first and then grabbing our second quarterback?
Yeah, I'm in. I feel like Tyjae Spears might be my guy here.
Yeah, I've been drafting. I like Tyjae Spears a lot as well. Yeah, let's grab Spears here. Yeah, Blue would have been the only other guy that really jumped out to me as someone who's moving up, but let's do Spears.
Yeah, I think I need to draft a little bit more Blue. He's just going earlier than I want him to. So I think I don't draft him because I feel like he should be going a little bit later, but maybe that's just wrong. He might be the best running back in Dallas.
Yeah, let's see. Do you have a you want to do Stroud with Nico at ADP?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay.
Rather have him with his top receiver, I think.
And then the nice thing about this spot, like Brock and Stroud, we can shut it down if we need to. But then if we were to get like a really good value on a Penix, on a Young, on a Geno Smith, I think we could still pull the trigger.
Yeah, I love that we have 3 late options there.
Yes. Yeah, and then, you could even throw Cam Ward in there. Like, I think with a Cam Ward, Tyjae Spears, you could build out something. So in good shape there. We'll obviously have to swing back and stack a few more wide receivers. But I think in good shape. So here's the team. Brock Purdy, double stack, CJ Stroud, skinny stacked. We got 4 running backs, Omarion Hampton, Chuba, Tyrone Tracy, Tyjae Spears. Wide receivers, Nico, Tet, Juwan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, Darnell Mooney, and then Brock Bowers there. So can probably skip this kind of like tight end window and go a later tight end with Brock, and then just kind of build out the running backs and wide receivers here.
Yep. No, I think we're setting this up well. We're giving ourselves optionality for the rest of the draft. We've got pretty strong players at each position. I think this is going well.
How what kind of best ball volume are you looking to get down this year? Are you live draft only? Do you like piling in a bunch of slow drafts? What are you trying to get in this year?
I do a ton of slow drafts. Like I just load up. Sometimes I think I've loaded up 50 at a time already this year. Not since the draft. I think I'm in 10 slow drafts right now. I've maybe done 20 total drafts since the NFL draft. Once the schedule comes out, I'm going to start hammering a lot more, and obviously I'll start doing more content. And then the content also kind of makes me want to draft more on my own, I think, sometimes. So yeah, I'll be doing heavy volume. I think I did 600 drafts, 700 drafts last year. My guess is that it'll be pretty similar once again this year. And it's, I think I do probably more like for non-stream drafts. I think I do a lot more slow drafts than fast drafts.
Okay. Yeah. I might, so far I've been fast draft exclusive. I did a couple slow drafts during the big board season. Maybe I'll make, maybe if I think it kind of like when they had some of the high stakes drafts, maybe more in August, I kind of like doing a couple of those slow draft style. You get to kind of really think about your team, map stuff out. But so far I've been fast draft exclusive. Best Ball Mania is exclusively on stream. And then, when I'm doing my walks, my cardio club's been mixing in a schnauzer or puppy here and there.
Yeah. I saw somebody say, how can somebody in the industry have only seen 2 clips of Cam Scatabo? And I think that's a fair criticism. Like I think that I historically don't watch. I mean, it's like arguably, and I'm also not like a longtime fantasy football guy who like tries to put out prospect ranks and stuff. But I also like, part of the reason is, so I read up on players a lot more than I watch them, because I don't think that I have the best eye for talent when it comes to prospects. So I do like, I think this year I've already watched a lot more of the rookies than I did last year, and I think I'll continue to do so. But I just don't think that is my skill set.
No, and there's a presupposition that watching film translates to fantasy success for the player. And
Also
really the key is that you outsource your opinions to people who do that well. When you are using ranking sets, you are de facto outsourcing that. If you have a film guy like a Harmon or a Waldman you like, you're directly outsourcing that. So it's like you can outsource those takes to people who spend tens and tens or hundreds of hours watching film, and then you can decide how to apply that. But you yourself watching a 10-minute highlight film is not going to help your advance rate. It's
fun, but I don't think
it
makes me any better.
Yeah. Okay. We are on the clock here. We could do like another Atlanta guy with Algier, Cedric Tillman, Xavier Legette at wide receiver. Tillman's kind of interesting if we want a wide receiver. Dobbs.
Yeah, I don't hate that. We'll go Tillman.
I don't mean to lead the witness too much. If there's something you like here,
I think I'm okay with that. Either that or Brenton Strange would be my picks. Tillman or Strange.
Okay, let's do the guy behind us has 2 tight ends. Let's do
let's do Tillman. Take our third. I would say Bryce maybe.
Bryce, yeah.
Maybe should have thought of Xavier Legette a little bit more. I don't know. I think I'm happy with just a single stack with the alpha. Tet McMillan also just works for me.
Here's the thing too, like about the tight end is that we can keep Schultz in our back pocket. If we go Bryce Young, Jatavian Sanders is interesting. So I don't mind passing on a quarterback in this range.
You mean passing on a tight end? Or
sorry, passing on a tight end. Yes.
Yep.
But I agree. I think this is the spot we grab Bryce, and we already have Chuba and Tet. So yes, the Legette pick wouldn't have been bad. Who knows? Maybe Thielen falls and we can have a grand old time with that stack. But I love the prices on Carolina. I think, we grab the sure things at the top of the board, and then everything else is super cheap if you're wanting to play, the breakout team angle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've been drafting a lot of Tet and Chuba in particular. Actually, I pre-draft I was drafting a ton of Jalen Coker, which is not looking so great now. But I think I mix in. Actually, I drafted a ton of Adam Thielen pre-draft. It's pretty funny that like 2-3 years ago, none of us wanted anything to do with Adam Thielen, and now it's like he's still the same price, a couple years older, and we're like, all right, I think it's a great pick here.
If anything, it's gotten more dicey. It's like they add a first round wide receiver. He's getting older. Jalen Coker was kind of interesting too last year. But yeah, it is one of those tricky things. The cop out answer is I think he has a place on some teams, and they would not make sense for like if you start your draft with 5 wide receivers through 6 rounds, like Adam Thielen probably doesn't have a place on that team unless you're like doing Bryce Young and you just want the double. Or you have these teams where you're like, hell, I got Brock Bowers and 2 running backs, and like my wide receiver room is thin, and I'd like someone who can maybe buoy me until these rookies, start to break out.
Yep, exactly. All right, so we're
done at quarterback. 3, 4, 6, 1.
6, 1.
We got lots of outs, I think, at tight end late. So to me, the focus is definitely on running back, wide receiver in this range.
And this would be a good Thielen team. Unfortunately.
It would. The running backs in this range too, like this is like a super flat tier here as far as all of these kind of like running back 2s, maybe a running back 3.
I think I'm back in on MarShawn Lloyd this year. I was very in on MarShawn Lloyd last year, and obviously that went horribly for me. But I think I'm back in. Just the coach speak to me is pretty good. Like I think it's been like they brought up like the pass catching room, like who's going to be the alpha? Is it going to be the tight end? And the coach Beak Index Discord, by the way, one of the coaches just like out of nowhere brought up like I want to see what MarShawn Lloyd can do in the passing game, and I'm like that seems pretty bullish to me that they're bringing him up when they're talking about the passing game. And obviously they wanted to use him last year. Who knows if he still has much of a role after Josh Jacobs was pretty damn good last year, but I think MarShawn Lloyd's a pretty good bet.
Yep, I've been with you. He's been one of my favorite late round running back guys right now in this kind of stretch of the draft. You know, you're hoping as the summer progresses, there's more MarShawn Lloyd types that emerge.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you know, Devin Neal or Dylan Sampson is clearly the RB2. It's like, all right, now let's mix it up. But I'm with you. Been tilting things in that direction. I'll toss out a guy here to get some up. Like Pat Bryant keeps going earlier and earlier.
Yeah.
It would
I don't
nice
have
to get
any
some
of Pat
rookie.
Bryant. I think he's a good pick. Yeah. What was it?
Okay.
3rd round pick?
Yes. Yeah. And I think there's like, you know, in the same way we talk about like these backfields that are truly ambiguous, I do think the Denver wide receiver room is pretty ambiguous in that you could see kind of a surprise winner emerge there.
Yep. I like that.
I
also like Jarquez Hunter as a late round running back. There are some of these guys that kind of excite me.
Yes. I'm trying to see if like there's any other correlation angles. The other thing we should think about, would we want to lock up Schultz here as part of the double stack with Nico?
Yeah, because there are several strong running back options pretty low, so I don't hate that idea. Just getting Schultz.
Yeah, why don't we do that in the 16th round here? Grab Schultz. I love getting the double with Stroud. We got the double with Purdy, and we got the the Chuba and Tet with Bryce Young. So here's the full team, and we have 2 more picks. 3, 4, 7, 2, Brock Purdy, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Omarion Hampton, Chuba, Tyrone Tracy, Tajay Spears, Nico, Tet, Juwan Jennings, Ayuk, Mooney, Tillman, Pat Bryant at wide receiver, Bauer, Schultz. I think 1 pick is for sure a running back, and maybe it's 2 running backs, depending on how you're feeling.
Can I see our running back room again?
Yeah.
It's funny. We go with Omarion Hampton, and it's like, feels good, like good draft capital, but also he could like not do that much early on. It might take a little while for him to establish himself. So yeah, we probably need a little bit more running back firepower. I usually go 5 to 6 running backs anyway. I kind of like this running back room. I think it's going to be we have a lot of like running backs that are going to be splitting time, I think, in this room. I think Chuba could be an alpha potentially, but I think this is mostly going to be time splits for Hampton, Tracy, and Spears.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, another running back could be helpful, maybe even 2.
Yeah, I think I'm probably leaning to, I guess the other angle would be like the Jatavian, if you did want to do a 3rd, but I mean with Bowers and Schultz,
yeah, I think
it's a luxury pick. I think you're right. I think it's probably 2 running backs, assuming there's stuff we like, which I'm not also going to make that assumption.
Yeah, we'll see who's there.
So are Vikings all of your most drafted players so far?
I would assume so. Actually, let me look. That's a good question. I have not looked recently. I would assume at least JJ is up there.
Yeah.
It's tough because I'm trying to load up on JJ, and I looked at it pre-draft, and I was like, I feel like I draft him every opportunity I have, and then it was like 20% because I still I won't take him unstacked most of the time. All right, my underdog's not.
Yeah, he's kind of a weird one to do unstacked.
Yeah, he does run some. Fun highlights, by the way. He is one that I have watched some clips of JJ, who's not actually a rookie, but feels like a rookie, and man, his highlights are fun.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I do think the running backs here are getting dicey. We are, some guy like I don't mind the Ollie Gordon in Miami if I'm trying to find something here.
I kind of like Taj Brooks. I think he could be a 0, but I think he's also a really fun upside pick.
Okay.
Taj Brooks.
I had a whole rant about Taj Brooks in the first episode. So the people are going to love me being forced to select Taj Brooks here. But we're going to need to take 2 here regardless, I think.
All right. I assume Jarquez Hunter went.
He did. Yeah. And that's why the guys that I've been entertaining here is so thin. Ollie Gordon, Brashard Smith are probably the ones that stand out to me.
Yep.
Maybe if you want to talk me into Jordan James, because this is a San Francisco team. I mean, even Woody Marks for our Texan stuff is gone.
Miles Sanders is not a terrible pick here, I think also. I mean, people want to pick Jadon Blue way ahead of him, and he's probably better, but I'm not sure Javonte Williams is better. So I don't totally hate Miles Sanders.
I don't either. I would say one of these four. You pick.
I don't want to be accused of being a boomer, so let's go Brashard Smith.
Okay. Yeah, and this goes back to kind of what I was talking about before, where it's like if you wait, for the running back stuff, like you are going to be taking pretty big flyers. We are at pretty big risk of these last two selections being zeros. The counter is we were pretty well solidified at every other position, and because we're not selecting a QB3 or a tight end 3 in this range, you're basically going to have job security questions about most of these guys. Like you could have said, hey, if we did a different 2v2 and we're grabbing Darius Slayton here, it's a Tyrone Tracy team, you get a little more of a sure thing at wide receiver. That's the 2v2 you kind of have to think through ahead of time. But this was an unusually thirsty late round running back room. Like normally there's some guys like Hunter and Lloyd still kicking around.
There usually are, but also we were talking about them. And I think a lot of people drafting with you in particular, people in your streams are watching the stream while drafting with you. So as we're hyping them up, probably a little bit more likely to be picked.
Yes.
That's been my experience in watching your streams. You talk about players, they often go a little bit ahead of ADP.
Well, someone was in the chat wondering what happened to Pat Bryant's ADP. And it's like, he's just on the move, and it's a combo of things too. And I do think we will see still like a boomerang effect of ADPs for rookies right now. Like we are probably close to like the tip of that parabola or whatever, where it's going to come back down, where we're going to get all this enthusiasm, and eventually we're going to get some cold water poured on. Sean Payton will give an interview and he'll forget to even mention Pat Bryant, and we'll all be like, oh fuck, what are we doing? Can't take him. So I will say, some of these guys will rise and continue to rise. Like I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Jaden Blue continues to kind of tick up. But some of them, I think, I even look at like the Jalen Knoll, that the Jack Besh was one. I'm like that ADP is coming back down. So if you're worried about super expensive Pat Bryant, I don't think he'll ever get to a range where you're like, I can't take this guy anymore because people had him in round 18.
Yeah, I doubt it. WFM Ware says, you mean Michael Thomas? Yeah, I mean, who knows? Could be. We may have drafted Michael Thomas late on this team. Pete, I got to say, I'm very proud of myself. So I've only actually finished 13 drafts so far post-draft, and I am shocked by my JJ McCarthy exposure.
What is it?
It is 76.9% JJ McCarthy so far for me. So people accuse me of being a flat exposure bro, but no, I am in my Liam era right now, drafting all the JJ McCarthy.
That's my favorite thing. It's like all the fandom guys, but that are also kind of plus EV bros or whatever. And it's like you're perfectly flat everywhere, but then your laundry team just has these
Vikings.
Like, these huge spikes. All right, I'm gonna name this team, and then we will. I'll read it off here, and you can give me your final thoughts. Just realize that your initials spell no here, as I put in an abbreviated name for us with NO. Brock Purdy, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, 6 running backs: Omarion Hampton, Chuba Hubbard, Tyrone Tracy, Tajay Spears, Taj Brooks, Brashard Smith. 7 wide receivers: Nico Tet, Jawan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, Darnell Mooney, Cedric Tillman, and Pat Bryant. Tight ends: Brock Bowers and Dalton Schultz. What do you think?
Unfortunately, Pete, it is impossible for me to grade this team without the bye weeks. How am I supposed to know how good this team is without knowing the bye weeks? But assuming that we have different bye weeks for each team that we drafted, no, I think this is a really solid team. Love the 3 quarterbacks. Seems like 3 stack quarterbacks based on Leone's manifesto update is the way to go in general, the most plus EV way to draft. I actually think our wide receiver room ended up pretty strong. Obviously, Brock Bowers anchoring the tight end room. I think Dalton Schultz a pretty good second tight end. Our running backs are a little bit scary, with our top running back being a rookie in a split, and Najee probably starting with the lead there. But I think we got some. I mean, we do have 3 rookie running backs, and 2 of them are Taj Brooks and Brashard Smith. So there is a little bit of concern there for me. But I think Chuba could just be awesome this year, and I think this could end up pretty good.
And I think that's the way. And I kind of agree with you on the assessment with Hampton. Like I do think. I've heard someone mention, I kind of like the analogy to Jonathan Taylor's rookie year, where it did start a little slow despite the really nice draft capital. And then he was just kind of a monster down the stretch, where it's like, yeah, Najee's going to get touches early. And the question is just like, how undeniable is Omarion Hampton's talent? It's not like if he takes over, it's just when. But when you do a build like this, where you have Chuba as a true anchor running back, and then you're hopefully getting standalone value from Tracy and Spears, and you can bide your time. And then the hope is that you have two, top 12 backs in Hampton and Chuba down the playoff stretch. Like that's the thesis of this team.
Yeah, I think it works out. I think the texture of the running back room is actually pretty good.
Yep. I like the wide receivers. I like the correlation we were able to get. San Francisco double stack, Houston double stack, Carolina stack with Chuba and Tet. So all kinds of nice correlation here. And then even for the wide receivers too, like if we have worries about Ayuk's, health, I think getting Mooney there to kind of solidify a guy who's going to be on the field and scoring for us early was nice. So yeah, I like how this team shook out despite two running back picks that did make me feel a little uncomfortable at the end.
Okay, can you give me, I know you have another show coming up, but can you give me the short version of Taj Brooks' rant?
Oh no, so the rant was just basically like right now, basically all those running backs, I'll say like after Rico Dowdle comes off the board, there's legit questions on if they're the RB2 or the RB3 on their own team, I think. And we want to be selecting the guys we feel more confident are the RB2s. And that's why I've been gravitating like you to MarShawn Lloyd. And it's not saying that these guys aren't fun picks. Like I think Jarquez Hunter is a very fun pick. He could also be the running back 3 on his team. Yeah. And so I think I'm okay having like a narrower pool right now, knowing that as the summer progresses, because there's 32 RB2s. Like we just don't know who those are now. So we're going to have plenty of RB2s we can draft as the summer progresses. I'm just trying to be a little more choosy right now to avoid having, zeros on my early teams.
Yeah, I think that is, I agree with you. And part of the downfall of the running backs we wanted got taken. So we kind of had to reach a little bit for guys we're not super comfortable with. So yeah, we're just, I guess, hoping for the best now.
Yep. But yeah, this was a fun team. And I forget, did you say, are you gonna get more in the best ball streaming game? You're obviously not streaming 150, or I don't want to make that assumption that you're not doing.
I have not drafted any yet, so I'm leaving myself the out. But I think that I'm going to be doing. Last year I did some like 10 to 15 minute long draft recaps. So I would draft on my own. And I did this for obviously not Best Ball Mania last year, but I did it for some drafts where I just did like, I draft the team, then I do a recap, and I always expect it to be shorter than it ends up being. But I kind of enjoyed doing some of those shorter pre-recorded videos also. So I will be doing streaming probably twice a week is what I'm likely going to land on for streams. And I'll probably take it more of your approach of doing like 3-4 hour blocks when I do stream. And then I'll probably do some more of that pre-recorded draft recap stuff.
Nice. I love it. Just answering this question, got to say that if you only want RB2 guys guaranteed, this is the thing. None of those guys are guaranteed. I'm assigning a probability scale. And so I'm basically saying, so sorry to read this comment for the audio listeners. Got to say, if you only want RB2 guys guaranteed, Lloyd might not be that. I have several friends who say Emmanuel Wilson. And I think about Emmanuel Wilson at times as well. But it was more saying the percentage chance, I think, MarShawn Lloyd is the RB2. Let's just say it from my gut vibes, 70%. The percentage chance I feel that Taj Brooks or Brashad Smith are the RB2, I'm down in like the 20-25% range now. So it is not saying with full-fledged 100% confidence. And that is why I like guys like Tyler Algier in locking that up, because it's like I have a 99.9% confidence rate that he's the RB2 there. So when I say that, I am talking in ranges of percentages and knowing that those are going to kind of ebb and flow as the season progresses.
Yep.
Also, where is this coming from? I thought Pete was anti 3QB. I 3QB was my most frequented quarterback allocation build last year in Best Ball Mania. If I could just choose my builds, just like write out my teams, like I don't know, 70-80% of them would be 3QB. I love 3QB.
Yeah, I like our exact construction. 3-6-7-2 feels pretty good to me.
How are you going to be celebrating the schedule release? Is this, you get your popcorn, you get your favorite 6-pack there, tune out everything else, just sit down on that lazy boy 4 straight hours of schedule content?
Yeah, I think I'll just be drafting nonstop for 24 hours after it comes out. 6-pack, maybe a little bit of bourbon on the rocks is usually how I celebrate. That's probably the way it's going to go. I'm going to pull an all-nighter, bourbon in hand. My teams are going to look pretty wild by the end. It'll be fun though.
It'll be, this is how you know you're a sicko. are you going to take the schedule? The buys will get uploaded, and then are you going to go through all of your big board teams and mark the ones that have double bye week at the onesies as dead? That's how I think you're a true bye week bro.
I might label my teams earlier this year, but I'm gonna. You guys are doing your mnemonic show for the week 17. I'm gonna do that for the bye weeks, mnemonics for the bye weeks.
Yeah, you should please do that. Release that in a little infographic there as well. The bye week bros. I bet you would get more retweets from a mnemonic device for the bye weeks than you would. I think Daigle does it, not a mnemonic, but he puts out like the overlapping bye week screenshots each year with like the players to know like who was it last year? There was a bunch of the quarterbacks. It was like the rookie quarterbacks with the elites were paired up, wasn't it? Like the Drake May, Bo Nix.
Oh yeah, it was
like Lamar
and Jaden Daniels. I think were the same by
and Anthony Richardson too.
Anthony Richardson, yeah, the running quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yes, that's the one thing I miss about this year. Again, because I like when the landscape allows for a lot of different approaches. Where last year, like if you wanted to do a super late round quarterback build, you really could. Whereas this year, that is really hard to pull off. Like if you say, I'm just waiting till 150 and I want to draft 3 quarterbacks in the final 6 rounds, it's like, all right, Sam Darnold, Jackson Dart, and Tyler Shough, like come down. Like I kind of wish we had those smoothed out more as opposed to all of them being in the 100 to 130 range.
It is kind of nice that there is that, like that range is really strong. I'd extend it beyond 130. Like I kind of like Geno this year. I feel like the range for me goes to like maybe 160. And I feel like it's just like a super strong range from like 90 to 160. Just like take 3 quarterbacks there is probably going to be my most common build.
Yeah. Yeah. What other than people discussing solvers and RTAs and overlays all summer, any other metas that you think with drafting? We're so far beyond the week 17 correlation stuff. Any other conversations you envision popping up this summer?
I think the zero RB versus non-zero RB is going to become even a bigger war than it was last year. Like I think it was like all the streamers were like pretty in on zero RB. This isn't really a meta, but it's just I think that people are going to overreact to last year being such a strong running back year that I think a lot more people are going to be pushing back on the idea of zero RB and calling us nerds and stuffing us into lockers. But I actually seems to me that streamers have also capitulated a little bit on the early running backs. So maybe it won't be as much of a battle as I'm expecting. That's a good question. I'm trying to, I don't have any other. Great. We've already had the battle of like drafting rookies, which I think you called what's his name out on your stream about. He said Davis drafts too many rookies. I didn't even realize. I think he said 10 rookies drafted on the winning BBM team last year.
Big board.
Oh, big board.
Yeah, half the team was rookies. I think there was like 4 or 5 on the winning Best Ball Mania team. It wasn't as many in previous years for that. Yeah, the rookie thing. I mean, you want to talk about like capitulation. The market has kind of just capitulated on that. I mean, when you see where guys like, we use a guy like Jack Besh used to be an 18th round pick. 3 years ago, even with that, I guess that's where now what's interesting is how the market approaches the guys that are rookies that actually had good draft capital, but don't have the profiles that we want. Like the Tesla, the Pat Bryant, even the Ty Felton, Savion Williams guys, like out of that cohort, like I feel pretty strongly one of those guys is probably going to be a smash just based on the team where they took them. It's just, again, kind of like the running back conversation. You're playing with fire because, Ty Felton could be behind Naylor in like a 0, or he could get on the field and be this big spike week guy and have like a Chase Claypool-esque rookie year. And like, that's a pretty wide range of outcomes for those guys.
And if he is Naylor, like say he just supplants Naylor, is exactly Naylor this year, it's like, that was okay last year, but it wasn't exactly a smash pick. I had a lot of it. So yeah, I don't know.
And the thing is like the archetype of player too, like Ty Felton's like a big, fast dude. So the thing you think about with those guys is like when they do hit, what do you win? Like when you hit with guys like Demario Douglas or Jalen Naylor, like you're getting a guy who's on the field, isn't going to make mistakes, going to earn some targets out of the slot, maybe has a red zone role, but probably lower ceiling-ish, where it's like, the Ty Feltons of the world are going to bust more. But when they do hit, they hit like Christian Watson did as a rookie. They hit like Chase Claypool did as a rookie. And that can be very nice.
And maybe I'm in not seeing quite the same ceiling. Maybe I'm overrating the landing spot of just like he's kind of buried on that depth chart. But also like injuries happen, so who knows if Addison and Jefferson and Hawkinson are all going to be healthy all year. So maybe I'm underrating his upside a little bit just because of the landing spot being he's kind of buried on the depth chart.
Well, Neil, loved getting to draft with you. Everybody check out the Flannelverse. I'll make sure to link to it in the show notes in the description. And yeah, we'll have to get together for another stream at some point this summer.
Definitely. Would love to.
And as I said, guys, immediately following this, I'm hopping over to Lowell's on this same channel. If you stay right here and just refresh, that stream will pop up. Otherwise, you can go to my channel. We are going to talk with Adam Levitan and Taylor KB about their new draft assistant. And we can kind of hear their side of the story. We're going to talk about some of the reactions. If you have no clue what I'm talking about, then that show will be a primer for what's transpired on Twitter over the past, 72 hours or so. Otherwise, got the usual shows this week, off and on the clock with the Badge Bros tomorrow, Swolecast. We got Ship Chasing. Lowell's obviously moving up to today. Join us in the Deposit Kingdom Discord. Subscribe. We're back here every Monday for Best Ball Breakfast, 4 hours of live stream. Have a great week. Thank you to Pat, to Leone, to Neil. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.